The tape. We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yep. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunkered down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Film guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. The tape.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. The
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Oh, he hasn't even fully loaded the printer yet, dude.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. We are currently live, and on a typical Tuesday,
Brooks is currently punching his printer right now.
Yes, the printer was not loaded with paper, so he is currently figuring that out. But as you can already guess, probably, we do have a loaded show with you, littered with a bunch of topics, starting out with our National Hour. First things first, we're going to be diving into, we're going to be defining some more success for some more football teams tonight. We're going to be hitting some topics also that we had yesterday on the show sheet, but didn't actually get to because we had a bunch of other things to talk about. We're also going to be grading some recent hires, guys entering year 3. We have a couple of names that we're going to be hitting, and also some recent news about whether spring scrimmages are going to be happening between two teams. And now the boss man is finally at his desk. It looks like we're settling in, getting things situated.
Yeah, hey, look, man, life's about adapting, right?
That's right.
I don't know what in the hell's going on with that printer. I've never figured it out. It's very fickle. I don't know if you got fickle relationships in your life, but that's the most fickle one I got. Can't figure out what mood that thing is in. Never. Don't want to work today, so we're going to go up off the iPad. But yeah, tremendous open right there with the rundown. We have a loaded show for you guys. As always, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribing, rate, reviewing. I know today we're going to start off with the year 3 hire theory. And we have a theory around this network, okay? We have a theory about coaching, okay? When you hire college football coaches, okay, within 3 years, okay, if they're going to be a championship coach, if they're going to be one of the ones, if they're going to be one of those guys, you kind of figure it out within 3 years, okay? Kirby Smart was playing for a national title in year 2. Nick Saban won his first national title at LSU in year 3. He won his first national title at Alabama in year 3, okay? Dabo Swinney won his first ACC championship in year 2. Okay, these guys, they don't get off to slow starts. Steve Sarkisian was in a college football playoff year 2 at Texas. Kalen DeBoer was in a college football playoff year 2 at Washington. All right, Kenny Dillingham who we're going to talk about tonight, was in a college football playoff year 2 at Arizona State after going 3-9. If you are going to be a guy, all right, at the head coaching position in college football, we know immediately, okay? We know within 3 years, there really isn't many slow plays where it takes a while to build and eventually you knock it off. I think the closest guy right now going into the next year that's got one of these resumes is James Franklin, who ain't never gotten over the hump 12 years in, going into year 12 with Penn State, and feels like he's finally got it figured out. So that is our rule around here. We apply it very strictly around here. We kind of figure out who you are within the first 3 years of your college football career. I know you guys in the notes are looking at the guys going into year 3 this year. We're going to talk about those guys in a minute, but I kind of wanted to go through the guys that just finished up year 3, okay, and take a look at where these guys are and just give them a general grade of where the program is, right? Because I just told you the history is what the history is, man. These guys win. The ones who win immediately at these programs. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing. So coaches that just finished up year 3 for the audience listening, big name coaches here. I didn't go through the small schools. Don't hate me. All right. Most of those guys, if they're winning, they get up out of there anyway. So let's talk about these big schools. Mario Cristobal just finished up year 3. Lincoln Riley just finished up year 3 at USC. Brent Venables just finished up year 3 at Oklahoma. Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning, Brian Kelly, and Billy Napier are the group of coaches that we're going to talk about tonight. Let's start with Cristobal down there at Miami, guys. Just wrapped up a 10-win season. Okay, lost the bowl game. Looked like he probably should have won. All right, but you have a Heisman contending quarterback and don't quite get into that playoff mix because of a late season loss that probably shouldn't have happened against Georgia Tech.
This is an interesting one because I think there are some of these faulty pops in year 3 that we've seen. Now, Mike Norvell, I think we can agree, had one of these, judging by what year 4 was like for him. And I kind of feel like Mario Cristobal's was similar to this. You had a Cam Ward Heisman candidate season. Things were really looking good for them. They obviously fumbled the bag towards the end of the year. And I just wonder, like, was year 3 an example of what a Mario Cristobal Miami-led football team looks like? Or was it just this pop you had simply because you had all of this talent around you that really exceeded expectations?
And I think, too, for Cristobal, the thing is that while last year could be labeled as a success, despite the fact that it felt like they came up short of their ultimate goals of making a college football playoff and playing the ACC championship game. The other thing with that is it doesn't feel like that's going to lead into even more progress with this program because while they brought in some big pieces, they got another quarterback out of the transfer portal in Carson Beck. I don't know if the surrounding pieces are set up and even the schedule for them this year are set up for them to go and win 10 games again this year and maybe then get into an ACC championship game.
There's a school we're going to talk about tonight in the ACC that I think has the toughest schedule in college football, or at least an argument for it.
Ooh, yeah,
at least an argument for it. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I looked at it today. It was like, whoa.
I didn't realize
they got
it either.
everybody. Mm-hmm. But anyways, you brought up a point that really, really scares my year 3. Okay. Norvell within 3 years was like, oh, this is going to work. And now it's like, how fast can they get out of that buyout? So we'll see if this continues to apply, especially with like transfer portals.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? Like
I think
how fast you can turn your roster out and how quickly your roster can deteriorate nowadays in college football.
I think every single team that we've seen, get this quick, fast turnaround with transfer portals, the Baylors of the world, Florida States, Colorado, even to some degree, where the verdict's still out on them. But I think those are the ones where it's like, okay, this is kind of faulty success, where it's not exactly sustainable. You named a bunch of other guys. Like, they have built their program from the ground up, from recruiting from high school recruits.
I gave Mario a B+, just because of where Miami had been in previous coaches. And the difference with him is he is recruiting well, I think, well enough down there at Miami comparatively. But previously, man, it wasn't great. The Manny Diaz run didn't go so well. The Mark Richt run didn't go so well either. So he's a consistent football coach, but you don't really pay for consistency down there. It's for titles, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At that program, they still hold that. So I gave it a B+. What do you got going on?
I'd give it a solid B so far.
Yeah. I went B as well. I think it's fine. I think for what Miami was beforehand when he got there, it's been elevated. So you can't say he did a bad job. But
is this an A- if he just knees the ball out and doesn't lose to Georgia Tech in hilarious fashion?
No,
for the second time.
Because
I would upgrade it. If you get to postseason play, then I would upgrade it.
The thing for me, he's not an A+ or an A range coach right now for me because of reasons like that.
Yeah.
Like and like how we squander leads, how sometimes we show up and we're flat for 2 halves, how sometimes we show up and we're badass for a first half and we flounder in the second half. That kind of inconsistency is, to me, that's a coach thing. And it was the same thing in Oregon, in my opinion, during his run as well. On top of the in between game management. Let's go on to Lincoln Riley. Just finished up year 3 down there at USC. This is a grade for me right now that is looking up. All right. So at the beginning of last year, I would have said it was a C-. Going and at the end of last year, they didn't win like you thought USC should in their first year of the Big Ten. But I thought they changed more towards the defensive brand of football that we've been barking at him for years to do. Will you at least present a serviceable defense, a tough defense, a defense that can at least pretend to stop the run? All right. They got that last year. I thought they played sound defense for the first time under Lincoln Riley. However, offensively, they weren't what they normally are. So not a lot of momentum wins and loss-wise, but if you've seen what they're doing in the recruiting trail, they're finally bordering up Southern California, it looks like to me. They just got a 4-star defensive lineman out of Mater Dei that I know Oregon was heavy in on too. So if you're battling with Oregon for a defensive tackle and winning right now in this day and age of recruiting, you know you have buy-in too. So he's probably got some buy-in there as well. It's a C+ for me, but trending upwards for the first time in a long time. I haven't felt like USC football is moving up in a fat minute. I feel that way now.
And I would probably put it at a B- right now, because I think when he initially arrived, it was still like the stereotypical Lincoln Riley-led football team where you have a headlining quarterback name, goes on and win a Heisman. And then obviously the year after that, you expect some type of drop off, and there was. But there was also moments in the season where it did feel like they were up there. They were competitive against really good Big Ten teams last year, and they gave some teams some surprises. I think as far as recruiting goes, I feel like I kind of hear the same story about Lincoln Riley every single year.
It's April, excuse me. It's early. I know.
So like the spring portal or the spring recruiting window, things do typically pick up for them. They typically get some big time defensive commits, and then it kind of teeters off. So I'd like to see him close strong with this year's class, and then maybe that starts creating more buy-in for myself for him in the recruiting department.
Speaking of more buy-in, I need more buy-in from the audience on our premier sponsors. Like our friends over at Bird Dogs. I don't know if you noticed, but hey, 2 days in a row. 2 days in a row. Not the same shorts because, the Bird Dog folks, they take care of the homie. All right. Nice. But yeah, 2 days in a row rocking the Bird Dogs. They give you that real professional look while feeling casual. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to feel like they out here in a pair of gym shorts, but don't want to look like they out here in a pair of gym shorts. These are your things right here with Bird Dogs. If you go over to birddogs.com and use FGN today, you will get a free hat with your first purchase. By the way, always keep the hat on me. Thought about taking this one on a run today, but didn't want to stain it. So, shout out to the friends over at Bird Dogs. Again, for a limited time, our listeners are getting a free hat with any order if you use the code FGN at birddogs.com. Big fan of their quarter zips as well. I think I'm going to have to get me one of those. If a Bird Dog representative is listening, just send it to the house, okay? You already got the address.
Quarter zips are nice.
Nailed it.
But no, going back to the Lincoln Riley thing, I think you guys are being a little high on the Lincoln Riley hire. Like, yes, there's some recruiting momentum. There was recruiting momentum last year when they had Justice Terry and others. Like, we've seen this story with Lincoln Riley before. I feel like if Lincoln Riley is a guy that cannot have a ace in the hole quarterback like he had at Oklahoma, they're going to be in big trouble. You had a Heisman winning Caleb Williams who was deceived by many as, one of the best quarterback prospects ever coming into the NFL, and you went 8-4 with him, didn't really do much. Lincoln Riley was brought to USC to elevate that program to compete for Pac-12 titles and to compete for national titles, and he has not come close to that. I don't think it's a successful hire at all. I give it a C-.
I think, though, that some of the benefit of the doubt that I would give Lincoln is, one, there's been some changes. And two, when he took over that program, considering where it is now to where it was before he got there, there's certainly been some elevation, not to the degree that many expected it to be. Like, again, we kind of got into this conversation the other night when we were talking about head coaching rankings, where Lincoln Riley was like a consistent top 5 head coach in these rankings, and then he pops in at 19 for Greg McElroy. So there has been some decline for him there, but I think having to shift to the Big Ten, that automatically kind of shifts what type of football team you have to be. So I'm with you on the recruiting front. I mentioned that how I need more buy-in there, and I need him to close more for me to start taking that seriously. But we'll see what happens with Hassan Longstreet. We'll see what happens with Mayava at quarterback this year. Just interested, more intrigued than anything.
I mean, let's also not forget that a guy like Julian Lewis was supposed to be your quarterback, and you lost that. Like, I don't think the recruiting has been upward trajectory for him necessarily. Yeah, you're investing more on the defensive side of the ball, but what has Lincoln Riley team's been always headlined by? And that's really, really good quarterback play. They didn't get that last year from Miller Moss, and their record suffered significantly. Now, again, it was their first year in a Big Ten in a different type of league, but I think it's the days of Lincoln Riley at USC are numbered.
All right, let's be a little bit quicker here with Brent Venables. I think it's a C- looking middling. I can't figure out whether or not I'm bullish on the moves that they're making and whether or not this is a program trending upwards. I think they're just trending flatline in a conference that has 5 or 6 teams trending upwards, but at least they're one of the teams that is trying. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They have buy-in. They got it figured out, but I can't place them. I can't figure out if they're a 7-5 team. Are they a 9-3 team? I definitely don't picture them being a 10-2 team coming into this year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things about this program that are kind of tugging you both ways. Of, oh, they got John Mateer. That feels like an upgrade at quarterback. Well, what does the rest of the offense look like? I don't know if they got many upgrades there. I don't know if that all is going to come together and ultimately provide a successful offense on top of what he has been doing defensively for his team. I would kind of just place it at a C because I feel like it is like barely passing for him right now. Like there's flashy things about the team, but then there's also some major questions that, again, like continue to come up for this team.
I put it at a C+. I feel like the Oklahoma experience for Brent Venables has been you don't have enough ways to plug up holes. You come in and your defense is horrible the first year. You have to plug that up. Yeah. Then you're a middling team on both ways. Now you have a really, really good defense, but your offense doesn't have an identity. During all of that, though, you've been able to beat teams like Alabama and Texas and have some really marquee wins. So things haven't been great for Brent Venables, but they also haven't been a complete disaster and utter failure. So I went a C+ there.
You know, he's calling his own plays this year again, right? You know my feelings on this.
Yeah.
But I would imagine he was, because they were so exotic the last 2 or 3 years anyways, I would imagine he was probably the brainchild of all that. Mm-hmm. And then the DC set in the box, who he was probably a second hand of Brent anyways, Brett, and probably just, called what was on the sheet. If they're in this, they're playing this, we're checking to this anyways. I mean, defensively, it's so much motion that now that I figured this out, that whatever you call out of the huddle or whenever they break the huddles, it doesn't matter. As soon as they move, there's preset. Like if they motion to this set, we're playing this coverage anyways. That was decided on Monday and Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So now some of the pressures and the exact when to blitz and how to blitz, where to blitz from.
Tendency-based.
Yeah, that's tendency-based and play caller-based. Like right. that is the gift of some of these coordinators. But most of the base install and the adjustments in game have already been decided, and then you have to make them based off how the other team is adjusting. But I'm very curious to see how the new OC works as well. And I trust the guy from what I've saw on the Washington State tape that we studied. Mm-hmm. Still haven't given out that John Mateer tape, but man, they were clean everywhere. We even during that Mateer study, we showed a offensive line picking up a stunt really, really well. That speaks to just how well they're coached from top to bottom, and that's what they're probably bringing over. I give it a C-. Let's go to Marcus Freeman. We can be quick here. A++ looks like a dude. Yeah. Confirmed, stamped. We can do the same with Kenny Dillingham. We can do the same thing with our Kenny's going into year 3 now. Dan, we can do the same thing with Dan. We can stamp him. We're good. We think he's a big-time winner. How about Brian Kelly? Where are we at on that one?
Brian Kelly gets a B-.
Okay. Is he stamped as a championship caliber coach? Because that's the discussion we're having by year 3.
No.
I don't know. It's so tough because it's been so up and down for him. Like you make an SEC title game in year 1 with the program, then you back that up with a Heisman winning quarterback, and then now you're going into a season where you might have the best quarterback coming in the conference this year. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a national title contending, but I think they're in a good spot.
I think they're going to be what they were under what Brian Kelly and Notre Dame teams were, which is always a fringe team, and every year they'll have they had a really good season this year. Yeah. Let's see what they can do. And I think that's just going to be LSU under Brian Kelly.
So what have we been talking about them lately? They're not LSU at DB, right? We've been talking about that. DJ Pickett's going to be a damn guy. Mm-hmm. All right, don't know if you've seen the reports out of LSU, but he's a 5-star, and I had one coach tell me that if they jack him up, then they're going to jack everybody up. Like that's one of the guys that's supposed to be a pick and stick, first round type of cover corner coming out of high school. We've been talking about their D-line, how it just doesn't look like Florida State or LSU, especially on the interior of that defensive line. They added 5 defensive tackles in the 2025 signing class. They added a couple more junior college transfer guys, if my memory serves me correctly. So they're doing things that I'm asking them to do, if that makes sense.
Correct.
If you were really being critical of their roster, you would also look at their wide receivers and go, hey, man, what the heck's going on there? Y'all supposed to be at one of these wide receiver factories. Well, they're about to sign Tristan Keys, just committed. You know what I'm saying? So they're doing things that he might not have won a championship or been in contention quite yet, even though he played for SEC championship in year 1. at LSU. I think a lot of people look at that and say he kind of lucked into it, or shouldn't have been there, wasn't good enough to actually win, but got there type thing.
Yeah.
They diminished that year one success for him, especially because he got his doors blown off by Tennessee at home. And everybody remembers that more than the fact that they limp to an SEC title game.
Lost to A&M too.
And yeah,
so Jimbo Fisher A&M.
There's a lot of this too about that program. Like the Alabama game last year, we talked about it last night. That's an ugly blemish where it just doesn't make sense. I'm tired of what the hell happened to LSU this week? You know what I mean? Like that's not supposed to be what's happening.
Yeah, no. And to Brian Kelly's credit, let's not discount the fact that he inherited a team where the head coach was asleep at the wheel for 2 seasons after that. Like there was nothing he came into. And by the way, he was a guy that never traditionally had to recruit in the South and had to get used to that.
I mean, Coach O technically wasn't asleep at the wheel. He was jogging around campus on the wheel.
Yeah.
Shirtless. Getting the tan.
He hit autopilot and kicked his feet up.
Facts.
For sure.
All right. Let's go Billy Napier. What we got? I got C. Let's give it a flat C. Looking up, but the window's tight. Does that make sense? Very, very tight window right now for Billy. If you don't win this year or be like really, really competitive 8-4 is baseline, I think.
I would give it like to put an actual grade on it, like a 70. And we got the final test coming up.
That's where I was at, 72 to 75 range. Hey, we got to pull it.
We either got to blow this thing out of the water to really bump this grade up, or if we fail yet again, like it is plummeting down. Boy, you failed.
You just explained my academic career.
Got to lock in.
Bro, going into final exams because I'm pretty smart, but I didn't give a shit about school. So, yeah, always trying to get a 90 on the final exam to make sure I sneak an 81 out. No doubt. You just explained everything about my career.
I think Billy Napier, obviously it hasn't been a success. There have been a lot of really low points in his time at Florida, but it's also been one of the hardest paths to go through. And he's made it hard on himself in a lot of ways. But we talk about last season's schedule was brutal, and they managed to have a really, really good year of that. So I think I agree with you. It's on the lookup, but I also think giving it a C is appropriate, but it's also like, I hate to do that to you because it's not necessarily all your fault. I don't think Billy Napier's turned into C performance. I think it's been just the circumstances that forced that.
All right, so on to the further point of the discussion point right here, right? The guys that are entering year 3, it's time to either, confirm your status or get on. I think Deion Sanders, for what Colorado football is, I don't expect Colorado football to be competing for national titles. If you go 8-4 at Colorado, for me, that's incredible. Like this is a program that was 0-11. Everybody knows didn't win a lot of football games before he got there. I think they went 6-6 year 1 and then 9-4. Now, everything I've heard, like it's neck and neck between Salter and Julian Lewis. Like they might just roll right into playing Julian. At least maybe not early on in the season, but as the year progresses. So. For me, it has already been a success because of where they were. I just don't know what.
It's a weird one to gauge. Because,
you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I don't expect 10 wins at Colorado.
No.
Well, I mean, he has elevated the brand of Colorado football to unimaginable heights to where it's never been. And the on-field product has been elevated too to some degree, but it hasn't been like, oh, wow, Colorado's consistently competing for the Big 12 or they're a championship football team now. It's just like, well, they're better than they were, and everyone talks about them more. And, tuition is up, and people want to go to that school now more. So it's great for them. Colorado's making more money because of Deion Sanders, but I don't think the football team is worlds better than what it was.
More than anything, though, I think this is the biggest year for him because... Hold
on. You don't think the football team's worlds better than it was?
I mean, he's 13-12 all time as record there. Like it's look, it's a lot better, but it's also not like it's night and day.
I think they're night and day. Pull up the game reference for me. It wasn't just that they were like, I mean, they obviously won a national title in the 90s, 1990. They share it with Georgia Tech on the fourth down extra play.
I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of 5 and 7 in there. Like they've been a consistently middling team, but
he's got to have the first 9-win season in 7 years at Colorado.
They won 10 games
in 2016.
Yeah,
so almost.
That's 9 years ago, guys.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but
I'm with you. I think that it is completely different in the sense of anytime, like if someone were to ask you about Colorado 4 years ago, just off rip, you're going, it's like 3 wins, 4 wins. I don't like, even despite the fact that they lost Shadur and they lost Travis Hunter. And this is why I think it is such a big year for him, because those 2 guys were the reasons, outside of Deion, of course, were the reasons why you were relevant, even if you were posting up 4 wins. You don't have those icons in your program anymore. So it is about, can Caden Salter or Juju Lewis become that for you, to where people are still tuning in, whether it's hate driven or if it's just for pure entertainment. You still need that factor, in my opinion.
I'm not ready to, stamp and say he has elevated this program, because he had talent that elevated the program for him. It's in my mind, and obviously it's a much less dramatic sense, but Gene Chizik. We can say, Gene Chizik took Auburn and won.
It's a good comp. I don't necessarily love it, but it's a good comp, what you're doing right here. Continue.
Gene Chizik won a national title at Auburn his second year, had a Heisman-winning trophy quarterback, undefeated season. Deion Sanders had a Heisman-winning player, had a really, really improved season. What happens when that talent leaves now? If Colorado comes crashing back down, it's attributed to the talent. Otherwise, Deion Sanders is the right answer.
So you should make that up on top?
Yeah.
Right here? Mm-hmm. It's a damn good take.
Thank you.
I used to hate and I do for the high school recruiting guy, soul and heart of me, I do dislike it. But I understand why he's strictly portal guy. Right. You ain't gonna recruit very well against the big boys out there in Colorado. So I understand that. But for Colorado, it's an A++ hire. Now, is he? It's hard to gauge. He's never going to win at our year 3 rate. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about guys that get into college football players. He was close last year, by the way.
Yeah, he could have made the Big 12 championship.
If they pull it off, he's in there. Kenny Dillingham, we've already talked about. This is A++.
Yeah,
I mean this guy's already stamped, in my opinion, as a guy.
You go 3-9 in year 1 and turn that into a team that almost beat Texas in a college football playoff game, won the Big 12, had a Heisman dark horse candidate at running back. You're getting.
Now you're Mr. I don't trust these guys when they say they're going to stay. He's sworn to stay there. He went there, GA'd there out of college. That's where he got his coaching start. He swears by Arizona State. I've changed my opinion on this, and here's why. I had a take today, sitting waiting for Kirby to walk in the door. If you're a great coach like Kenny Dillingham, he's like 33 right now, 34, 35. You're a great coach at a Big 12 school right now. Within 3 years, we could have a Super League.
Oh, yeah.
That is just the Big Ten, and it's the SEC, and it's Clemson, and it's Florida State, and it's maybe a couple of other schools, Notre Dame, that are big enough to get up in there. But most of the Big 12 is going to get cut out of that, I would imagine. Right. Arizona State's going to get cut out of that, I would imagine. Probably. I would imagine. He's going to have to coach the sport at the highest level, because it will be a very separate league, and will feel that way, and it will be paid that way. Mm-hmm. He's not. The coaches like that aren't going to stay at Arizona State. No, but I think. And by the way, when this happens, sorry to cut you off again. When this happens, if you're an SEC coach like Mark Stoops, you better be looking over your shoulder, right? Because those jobs become very, very valuable the moment they are, a middling SEC program that's just gets to walk in to what is a Super League. Yeah, and I think that would be an instance of he didn't leave because, I'm going to greener pastures. Yeah. He left because the cap on his career path was set for him by the powers that be. Yeah. Obviously, if the Super League comes into play and the Big 12 is relegated to a secondhand conference, there's nothing really Kenny Dillingham can do about that. Correct. I didn't mean to steer the conversation. It was just an interesting thought I had while taking the notes on this. Is man, he can say he loves Arizona State all he wants, but he loves really, really high-level college football, and there is going to be a big-time separation of talent acquisition between, if this happens, teams in the Super Leagues and everybody else. Mm-hmm. Everybody else will be everybody else. The Jeff Brom talk, do we whisper the entire segment? No, I think we okay. That. But here's what I realized today. I didn't realize how bad it got at Louisville. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize it was 2-10 to leave the Petrino years at the end of that. I didn't realize it was that bad. And then the Scott Satterfield thing was just straight mediocre the entire time he was there. So to take what was a very, very bad program, Scott Satterfield brought it to mediocre program, to then we're averaging 9 wins over my first 2 years. And by the way, was, if that ACC championship game goes a little bit differently when Jordan Travis is out, you're probably already in a playoff at this point, right? Wasn't that Louisville? Yeah, it was. They weren't Jordan Travis. They weren't going to be a playoff team. No, but if they won the ACC, it's not automatic. It wasn't automatic. Damn, totally different world. Yeah. No, if you think about what Jeff Brom has done in his 2 years there,
First 10-win season since 2013. They've been ranked inside the top 15 at least at some point in both of his seasons. He consistently has Louisville as a top ACC contending team in a conference where there's Florida State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Miami, like bigger brands than that. Like what he is doing right now is the equivalent to having a Kentucky or a Missouri in the top 5 of the SEC rankings every year. So he gets an A in my opinion.
I also just love what they have on the roster this coming year. They return a 1,000-yard rusher at running back this year. 20 of their 22 starters or projected starters are upperclassmen, like at least juniors, and most of them are like redshirt transfer seniors. So this is a very elder team. And then also, I think the schedule too, I think it's like a 9-3, and that's consistent with where he's been at.
They old.
Very old.
Kind of an old topic coming up next, especially considering we probably should have slammed it into the Colorado segment. Deion got an extension, big time extension, paying him like $12 million or $10 million over 5 or 58 over 5. Isn't that what it was? Mm-hmm. It's like 10.18,
and that's the right move for Colorado. I mean, until people stop tuning in to see what Colorado and Deion have to say or do, keep doing it. Like he's making that school more money than they've ever made.
And we're moving into a rev share model, so we all believe in like 6 days. By the way. House first NCAA is April 7th.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, entire sport of college football could change entirely, or they could just delay it further. I don't know what's going to happen. Even coaches don't know what's going to happen. But anyways, if we're moving towards a rev share model, how much your head coach brings in revenue definitely matters. You know, when your head coach is bringing such a vibe around your program that enrollment is up 350%, you probably just pay the guy whatever the hell he wants. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what Colorado did. I think it also, him getting past this both of his sons and Travis going to the league and still being at Colorado, I think he's there for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna play out this contract.
And if I'm Colorado, like you might view it as like, oh, this feels risky for them to do this, but I think it's better for them to do anything and everything they can to keep him, because the way I see it, if Deion were to ever leave, then you're kind of right back where you were before, and you just kind of throw your hands up and be like, well, we tried. We did everything we could to make sure that we stay in the mix of college football and do what we can to where we progress with the rest of the landscape.
Look, I'm sure it's not easy being Deion Sanders' boss on paper. You know what I mean?
Right.
That athletic director's phone's probably never been busier, but his budget's never been bigger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's probably never been happier.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Deion Sanders is how much money can we make our university play, and not how many championships, how many wins can we get our school? And that might sound bad to say, but I mean,
I'm so down on the Big 12 that I don't think it's outrageous that he's like, who's the year in year out?
We were talking about
in
this,
the Big 12.
Nobody. I was talking about this with Jay today. I was like, every time I look at a Big 12 team schedule, I'm like, oh, that's kind of manageable. It's kind of manageable. Yeah,
they all can't go 7-5.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the other thing, we're going to talk about them tonight. I hate to keep ruining notes, but I and everybody else, I feel like, thought Utah was going to walk out of the Pac-12, walk up in the Big 12, and be like, hey, this is my conference now. You're going to have to walk through me.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, the Mormons up the road are the ones doing that. BYU's out here stomping the Big 12.
The 35-year-old.
Can't figure it out. Can't figure out the Big 12 at all. So it's not outrageous to me that over the next 5 years, we're looking at a Colorado playoff team. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all. I wouldn't say that's crazy if you named every single Big 12 team and said that.
We just watched Arizona State go from 3-9 to a playoff team, a possession away from beating Texas, and lobs a lot Ewers.
Oh, that's a new one. I like it.
Yes, you had one earlier. Yeah. I'm just trying to step the game.
We're ad-libbing.
Yeah. Speaking of Colorado, the NCAA was like, y'all ain't playing no spring games. Y'all can't be doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we all expected this.
To an extent. I love Fran Brown's comment about it today. Did you see it?
No, what did he say?
He was like, we should have slid this over in Bill Belichick's DMs, because if he would have said something like this, they would have let it happen. But we ain't going to let Deion Sanders and Fran Brown re-innovate anything. So
it's an interesting take.
Yeah,
but.
It was an interesting little jab at a now ACC coach, too. I'm sure Bill loved that. I'm sure Bill loved that.
I mean, Bill Belichick hasn't really made any drastic changes in the NCAA,
but I think it was more of like Bill is an authoritative figure in the league or in football, in the football world.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess Dabo hopped on the bandwagon of promoting this.
He has. Shane Beamer has advocated for it. Shane even went back to say that when he was a grad assistant at South Carolina, he then was saying, I think we need to be playing other football teams.
Yeah, I'm calling BS. After calling BS right now. After sitting through 4 Division I programs, I can tell you who ain't talking. GAs. GAs ain't saying shit. They're sitting over there. Yes, sir, coach. Yes, sir, coach. They ain't talking. Now, Shane's the son of a coach, so maybe he was out here talking because his dad's Frank Beamer. So you could maybe get a little longer leash as a GA. Maybe he was GA and for his pops. But yeah, no, sorry.
No, I that was my first thought too of, did you really though, Shane?
Yeah,
Were you really out here pitching those ideas? But I do think that, and I know that this has been a point that many have made, but I know Shane made this specific point of, it is the only sport where you don't play preseason games. It is the only sport that you don't get that opportunity. So I think it will eventually come, and we talked about this, I think it was last night, where it's eventually going to happen. This just wasn't the reason, but it might be the reason that it leads to it.
Not to be pro NCAA guy, but you can't really organizations this large. You can't really spring things on them.
No.
You know what I mean?
No. I mean, this was something. Honestly, this was one of the things where I think Deion Sanders was kind of trying to go viral with a new idea, and Fran Brown ended up saying, "Well, we'll do it."
He got pulled up.
I mean, it was literally like a 3-week thing where he was like, "Yeah, we want to play our team." Fran Brown said, "Come on down," and then the NCAA was like, "Shit, we have to deal with this."
I guess we got to ask now.
Yeah, I guess we got to see if they'll let us do it now. Brado 902, is that what we got going on?
Yep.
Brado 902 said, appreciate y'all for the work. Not to spoil a segment coming on in the local hour. Where can we put him where he actually be seen? Let's see this cut right here. You can just next to the certified ball knower?
Yeah, so
there we go.
You can start doing space on certified ball knower. You can also go under it a little bit. But
Brado 902?
Yes.
Correct.
902. Appreciate you, my guy. A cardinal rule around the channel: if you super chub over $20 or $19.99 for the tax man, we will definitely put your name up on that board. It's getting pretty full with football knowledge and people who love football knowledge. Yeah, that's what that board says to me. We love ball, and the folks who watch us love ball. Nice shot. Shout out again to our folks at Bird
Dogs, man.
Shout out to our friends over at Bird Dogs. Out here with the crotch shots, crazy. How about Andrew Luck out here firing head coaches, hiring head coaches he played under?
Is he the most?
He's the only. Are you going to do the GM talk?
Yeah.
He's the only. And this is where I wanted to go with the conversation. What Christian's alluding to is the fact that he's the most powerful GM in the sport. He might as well be a football athletic director. In my mind, that's what he is. He is the football athletic director at Stanford. He is the only one. All these other schools that I talk to that have GMs, or I've seen that have GMs, it is a certified like coach's assistant, basically, to handle all of the administrative duties that coach don't want to handle.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have handed off all of the money. You know what I mean? Hey, go handle the roster and I'll coach the roster. I don't know how many of that's going on. That might be going on in Oklahoma because of the leash that Venables is on. Mm-hmm. Every school is different. Every school has a different role for that GM, right, and they handle different jobs.
Yeah, and I think Andrew Luck is the only true GM that I can say his sole purpose of being brought in was to kind of save the Stanford program. Now, we can kind of talk about Nagy and Oklahoma being somewhat of this, but every other GM, like you said, is dealing with the overhead, dealing with roster stuff like that. I don't think that Andrew Luck has been dealing with that as much as it is. I'm just going to kind of run this program right now.
And I think it kind of makes sense considering while there is unknowns in college football, kind of the direction that we feel as if college football is heading, where teams are going to be operating under a cap. I understand that it is hiring your buddy, hiring a guy that you have previous experience for. This is a guy that has previous experience at the NFL. I think that's kind of what you're morphing more into. So I think the decision of letting Andrew Luck do this makes sense for Stanford. I think his ultimate decision of hiring Frank Reich makes a decision.
He is labeled an interim. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it might just be, hey, we need somebody to coach us through spring ball while we find a head coach. But who are you going to find? I would imagine Frank Reich is a 9-month interim. Like, he's going to coach them through this year. They'll hire the best available candidate come this fall and be first in line for something like that. But I don't know how many people are signing up for Stanford. Also, I would imagine he is involved in conversation as to whether or not they're going to actually stay in the ACC.
Yeah.
That has been, from my knowledge and my conversations with coaches across the sport, that has been a far bigger logistical nightmare than they even imagined. Obviously, they had all the data points. Obviously, they knew how far these places were from each other, right? But it's different writing it on paper and actually having student athletes go through it. Mm-hmm. It's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember which two teams it was, but in one, I think in one of the conference championships, it was two West Coast teams playing on the East Coast for the conference championship. Like, there's so much involved. And I know that this was a point that a lot of people brought up of, like, the logistics of this alone just make no sense for either side.
This whole GM thing stinks.
Yeah.
How would you help that?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I know how I handle things when something stinks. I holler at my friends over at Mando. And if you wonder who Mando is, Mando comes from the founders of Lumi. Lumi and Mando have a whole body deodorant that is helping men conquer their odor in a brand new way. Mando has long-lasting 72-hour odor control that actually stops odor before it starts. How about that? Preactive, not reactive. Proactive, not reactive.
Preactive.
Gets at it before the problem starts. Mando, like I said, long-lasting. Best part is you can put Mando anywhere. You can put it anywhere. You can put it absolutely anywhere. All right?
Where should I put it?
I mean, you can put it in your pits. You can put it in your packages, your feet, skin folds if you got them, your back if you're nice and limber, and your knees everywhere. Everywhere. You can put it everywhere.
You got stinky knees?
If you got stinky knees, head over to Mando today, all right, and shop with our friends over there. Tell them the Film Guy Network sends you a little FGN on the promo code. Shout out to our friends over at Mando.
I believe we also had another Super Chub from Arky Dog.
We have a couple. We have the classic. I'm gonna pay to get a question answered because they don't do questions during live Q or during live shows. We do those on Wednesdays. But you know what? I'm feeling generous. But here's what you're gonna have to do. You have to wait till the end of the local hour to get the Super Chub questions. Other than that, I'm going to handle my man Arky Dog up on the board here in just a second. We got the ad read. We're going into Define Success. So let's take the break and put Arky Dog up on the board. Just showing some love. Appreciate you, Arky Dog. I left the mic on. The Sharpies are getting a little used, boys. I don't think they're made to get written on painted walls. So I would assume Arky Dog is a dog fan that lives in Arkansas. Is that a safe assumption?
What makes you think that?
I don't know. Just using my deduction skills, my deductive reasoning. When I was working construction, a little fun story about Arkansas. When I was working construction right before I retired from construction and got into content creation.
Early retirement. Congratulations.
Yeah, my boss came to me. He's like, "Hey, got a big job up in Little Rock. Need you to move up there for like 6 months. You think your wife gonna be okay with it?" I laughed in my room. I said, "No, sir. No, sir. Not happening." I appreciate Walmart and everything they've done for the world. I love Tyson Nuggets as much as the next guy, but no, thank you. How would you define success?
Wait, that's not really a story about Arkansas. That's more.
Well, that story goes further into me that segment right there. That ad lib goes further into me dumping on the state of Arkansas, but I didn't want to do that.
That's fair.
So, SMU. How would you define success for SMU this year? You talking about an old football team?
Yes.
This is an old football team. They have maybe the oldest roster in college football. The entire roster is redshirt juniors and seniors who have transferred from other bigger programs.
Mm-hmm. Now,
all of it.
They lost a good bit of offensive production. They lost, I believe, 2 starting wide receivers. They also lost their starting running back, but they returned Kevin Jennings. And that is kind of the heartbeat of this entire offense. Literally, I mean, it could flatline because of him, or that thing could be going at a rapid pace because of him, because it is exactly that offensively. So would need growth from him in the decision-making aspect of things. Although I think the bar for them this year for success, I think it is set at 9-3, because the only games that I could circle on their schedule are Miami, Clemson, and Louisville, and Miami and Louisville are at home for you. So those are 2 big pluses for you in that department. They could go 10-2. I think they could be back in a similar situation that they were in last year.
Yeah, and especially since last year you showed that, hey, it's our first year in the ACC and we can compete for a conference title. I mean, you were a really good drive from Cade Klubnik and making a 50-yard field goal away from going to overtime in the ACC championship game. Like, who knows what happens after that? They really show that they are, the real deal in the ACC, especially with so many teams being down. I think a successful year this year would be to expect to get, same competition from them. And, you don't have to be a playoff team. I don't think teams like that should expect playoff appearances every year, but it's absolutely within reason.
That team spends more than anybody else in that conference.
They should.
I mean, maybe not Miami. They're top 4. They spend as much as Clemson. They spend as much as Miami. They spend as much as Florida State.
I think they need to be in playoff contention. But like we said, the baseline is 9-3. If you go 9-3 this year and you miss out,
for me, man, with the window with the age of the roster and the age of the quarterback, and we just played in a college football playoff, and we just went out and added 3 really pricey transfer portal additions on the defensive side of the football. They got a 6'6", 300-pounder out of Purdue. They got a defensive lineman out of Texas State, and they took a linebacker out of East Carolina. Okay, they're paying a lot of money at SMU right now to win football games. By the way, have no TV revenue. All right, so the only way they're evening the budget right now is if they get that $20.5 million from a playoff appearance. You follow me? So the window of the roster for me says we kind of have to be at least playing for an ACC championship this year.
Correct. I do think we need to take into consideration last year's ACC schedule was relatively easy for them. Your hardest teams were BYU, which you lost to. You beat Louisville. That was a really good game. You beat Pittsburgh. And that's really it. You had Florida State at the start of the year in your schedule, but that ended up being a dud. So they didn't really have a tough ACC schedule. This schedule is much tougher for them.
Yeah. Also, have to remember Kevin Jennings. I keep wanting to call him the left-handed point guard. Played too much 2K during that time period.
I want to call him Jonas Jennings earlier.
Shout out to the dogs. By the way, could not be any further. I mean, at least Brandon Jennings was like a rail-thin point guard. Kevin Jennings is a rail-thin quarterback who plays like a point guard. So the brain association, Jonas Jennings and Kevin Jennings.
Hey, man.
Totally different. But anyways, you have to remember he wasn't the starter going into the year last year. Right?
Preston Stone.
They lost that game against BYU because basically they hadn't made the decision to switch yet. So second year in the system there as well, should expect better things. Mississippi State, baseline requirement. Don't be an embarrassment. We can't be out here. It's not coach that you lost to Toledo. It's that you were down 31-10 to Toledo at home. You know what I mean? We can't be doing that.
I mean, have you seen this schedule? I think if you get to 5 wins at Mississippi State, that's a really big accomplishment. They have to play Tennessee, Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Ole Miss. Like Arkansas and Missouri, you can maybe sneak up on. Ole Miss is always a close game, but off rip, there's 5 games that you probably should lose. Not to mention you play Arizona State within the first 4 weeks of the season. Like you have 3 games where it's like, hey, you probably should win the game. By the way, start the season on the road at Southern Miss. Very, very weird pull for them. But nevertheless, like if you get to 5 wins in Mississippi State, that's a successful season, honestly.
No weirder, probably less weird than Alabama playing at USF.
That's weird. You know, UMass hosting Missouri, Georgia State hosting Vanderbilt. We've had a lot of these lately.
Weird. Georgia State beat Vandy last year, but took till week 12 to get a conference win. College football. You know what I mean? Like, if an alien dropped down tomorrow, that's college football.
You don't even have to say beat Vanderbilt. Georgia State beat the team that beat number 1 ranked Alabama.
And didn't get a conference win until week 12.
Crazy. That's the sport.
Whew. Yeah, don't be an embarrassment, Mississippi State. Clean.
I said you got to win some conference games this year.
Yeah. How about Syracuse? Based off my research, basically everybody back on offense except for Kyle McCord and the tight end.
And Jackson Meeks.
And I saw Meeks on the roster.
Is he still on the roster?
Yeah. I saw Meeks on the roster today when I looked it up.
I thought
they signed or got Ricky Collins out of the transfer portal out of LSU. I don't know much about Ricky Collins. That was one of the only Elite 11s in the last like 5 years that I took off.
He declared.
Okay, so I'm wrong on that one. So they lost a couple of good pieces.
Yeah, and
I like what they're building. I whatever he is this year, he's stamped for me.
Well, we hinted at this earlier. That
schedule's brutal,
dude. If you go 8-4 with this schedule,
how about this, guys? This is I genuinely think this is in the run for the money, for toughest schedule in college football. Tennessee, Clemson, Duke, SMU, Pitt, Georgia Tech, UNC, Miami, Notre Dame.
And that's starting the year against Tennessee.
Yeah. Out the gate, August 31st.
Yeah.
The Vols.
I do think a successful baseline for them would be going undefeated at home. You get UConn, Colgate, Duke, Pitt, UNC, and Boston College at home. If you can win all your home games, that's a really good baseline for you to go in and get some upsets and some neutral wins.
UConn. Sneaky mid-major this year.
Sneaky mid-major this year,
9-3
yes.
last year. Gave a couple big Power 5 schools
Very
run for their
sneaky.
money. Sneaky this year. Watch out for the
Which is
Huskies.
why beating them at home would be an accomplishment.
Yep.
I put it as find a way to make regression look sexy. Because regression is inevitable, in my opinion, for them, because you peaked really early in your first year of Fran Brown to take Syracuse to what? They won 10 games, didn't they?
Yeah.
10 games in your first year at Syracuse. He's recruiting really well. You hit a home run at quarterback, and then you also got some really solid weapons. But you're definitely going to take a step back, but make a way to make it look sexy so people keep buying into it.
Fred Brown's going to smell bad this year.
Yeah, no showers.
No showering.
Having looked really closely into their recruiting in the last class, particularly in what they're doing this class, he's building a long-standing winner. In
Absolutely.
The ACC. I hope he gets to win at a high rate if a Super League comes, because they ain't getting pulled in. But he will.
Let's start winning.
But he will.
Like let's just derail this for a real quick second. If there was
regulation,
not even that. If there was a Super League today, do you think Colorado would get in it?
No.
With the clout and the everything that Deion Sanders is,
I think right now, if they create a Super League tomorrow, it would be the members in the Big Ten, the members in the SEC, Florida State, Miami,
Clemson.
probably Clemson, and Notre Dame. Off rip, and then maybe a couple other big schools.
But you don't think even with
like SMU might buy their way into that?
Maybe.
What's up?
But I'm saying, like, you don't even think with as much media attention and as much clout that Colorado has.
They're going historical data.
But if Syracuse rattles off another 2 or 3 10-win seasons,
again, to derail it even more, that's when regulation comes in.
Yeah.
You win in the B League enough, we'll bring you into the A League. We'll kick Vandy out eventually.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of if we'll ever have a have not become a have in this format.
Not from what I've been told. But we'll see.
Unfortunate. But.
Yeah, it is. I'm interested to see what happens in 6 days. I know that's totally derailed, but because no one knows. I mean, the most he might be playing dumb in front of a microphone, but I listened to the most connected, you would think, the most powerful head coach of college football. The face of college football as a head in terms of the coaching world, Kirby Smart, stand in front of us 6 days before the biggest settlement we've ever had in college football in my lifetime and any lifetime, I think. Personally, because we're involving such a large-scale change in terms of how we pay our players and how players get to schools and how long they stay there and what they're actually able to do to get them there. We're going through larger-scale changes than ever before, and everyone's like, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. That's scary. It's not settling, but I guess they hope it's going to bring some settlement to it. Utah. Now, this is an interesting one for me because Kyle Whittingham has been very open about, like, this is it. I don't know if this is going to be it, but it's it. At some point, I'm going to call it a day. Now, when your head coach is out here saying that, we got to win right now. Like, we got to go win right now. The problem is I don't know their strategies and their additions to the roster are outside of normal Utah. Utah is one of these programs that normally builds out of high school. They have a really good scouting and development department. They find underrated kids in metro cities and they bring them to Utah and they develop them further. The first round draft pick out of Stars Mill or second round draft pick out of Stars Mill, the Buffalo safety, is a prime example of this. There's a kid that was at a 6A school, okay, and playing triple option football, and they sign him, take him out of Utah, starts for 3 years, goes to the league. Okay, that's what they normally do. Well, I look up today, they signed 15 transfers this year. That's outside of Utah. What that tells me is that they know what I know. Like, we got to win now because we don't know what it's going to look like after Kyle Whittingham. You can't guarantee the next guy's just going to continue the success that Utah's had in football over the last 10 years that is outside of the normal parameters of the Utah Utes. They're not normally a 9-10 win football team. They have been under Kyle Whittingham. That's not guaranteed. So the window is very, very tight. And if you look at what they did, it's all offensively for the most part. Guys, they brought in 3 transfer quarterbacks. They're gonna find somebody to play the position. All right? They're going to find somebody. They brought in 4 transfer wide receivers. They brought in 3 transfer running backs. They going to find somebody to play offense this year at Utah because they haven't had it in several years.
Yeah, I mean, losing Cam Rising dropped the median age of your roster down to 26. So
last year, I consistently compared Utah to the Iowa of the Big 12, but I've since pivoted this. I think their current state, Oklahoma, Because I think 3 years ago, if you would have said Utah is headed to the Big 12, what do you think? You'd be like, oh, they're going to run that conference, especially knowing that Texas and Oklahoma aren't going to be in the conference anymore. Utah's going to go in there and dominate that conference. I think 3 years ago, if you would have talked about Oklahoma going to the SEC, you would have said that between them and Texas, Oklahoma would be the more successful team in that conference. That's not the case anymore. It's the opposite of that. So I think that they're very similar to Oklahoma in the sense of I really don't know what to think of Utah going into this year other than it feels like you have to win this year. Something has to happen for different reasons of Venables. It might be because he might get fired. You don't know what might happen with him. For this, it's Whittingham might not be your head coach because he's going to hang it up and call it a day. So big seasons for both programs.
Jonathan, you know what has to happen right now? We have to go to the local hour. We just have to. Or do we have anything else left to talk about?
We didn't go through all the coaches through their year 3.
Come on with it.
We didn't talk about Matt Rule.
Oh, yeah. Matt did it to himself.
Yes.
And by the way, also a confirmed year 3 guy. Year 3 at Temple, year 3 at Baylor. 10 wins both times.
Then there's Purdue. We don't talk about it.
He was a head coach.
Oh, no, never mind. I was thinking of Jeff Braun.
We don't talk about his time with the Panthers.
Yeah,
That's what
Panthers.
we don't do. We don't talk about Matt Rule with the
The NFL is a
Panthers.
completely different beast.
Completely different animal.
You know what I think? I think Matt Rule was getting kind of an unfair job. And I think Nebraska as a whole, like before Nebraska in 2024, Nebraska had 7 straight losing seasons, 7 years without a bowl game, 8 years without a bowl win. Like they have been a historically bad football team. And I know that everyone talks about the Nebraska of old and, you know, the Tommy Frazier days, and that's far gone. Like people need to stop measuring that up for Matt Rule because what he's done so far in the 2 years has been honestly really, really good. He's the only coach that they've hired that has shown promise since the Bo Pelini era. Like Scott Frost was a complete and utter failure. He's got a number 1 quarterback. He got them their first winning season in like 15 years. Not 15 years, but
I know they won under Bo Pelini. I feel like the football world as a whole, coaches, media, fans, respect Matt Rule as a head coach more than they do Pelini, and I don't know what that is.
Bo Pelini just had a face that would like made him seem very unapproachable,
And his mannerisms on the sideline, very animated from what I remember.
I think he rubbed people the wrong way.
That's what I'm saying. He had a very different. They feel different under Matt Rule than they did under Pelini. He's also got a significant advantage over the rest of those guys. Those guys, hold on, those guys that you mentioned before. They had to recruit the real way. This guy has an NIL budget that's comparable to any of the big boys right now. We talked about that previously with Nebraska. Lincoln is 45 minutes from Omaha, and there's nowhere to put the money in Omaha, and there's a lot of money in Omaha. Yeah. All right, it's where a lot of the what do you call it? A financial advisor company. All the money's there. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
The corn money.
Not corn money.
We also didn't talk about success.
I'm pretty sure it's where Lincoln Financial's at.
That would make sense.
And maybe Warren Buffett's company.
Somebody.
Yeah, it's Buffett. Buffett's out of all of his companies are out of Omaha.
Shout out to Warren Buffett, man.
Merrill Lynch. There you go.
R.I.P.
See, chat way smarter than the people on the stage.
Chat also has live access to being able to look things up, man.
Excuses.
We don't have technology in here to look things up.
We don't have technology.
We don't have laptops.
I'm reading handwritten notes for the show.
Yeah, how about that? How about you going al natural?
I had to go boneless today. I forgot my laptop.
Honestly, I've been trying to print my notes off for the last 55 minutes.
I thought you were just trying to get your steps in, which is why you're walking back.
No, I was trying to print it off, but my phone's dead. So I'm now trying to print it off my iPad, but the iPad's not connected to the printer. So yeah, we're just out here not prepared to execute the assignment, and that's on me. Okay. Should have found an extra hour in the day today somewhere.
We can spend the last 4 minutes of the show talking about success for Arkansas.
Ooh, survive?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah,
survive.
It depends on who you ask, and I kind of did this.
In the first 5, pretty easy for them.
The first like 3 or 4 are, but after that, it's
I'd
tough.
say first 2. It's Alabama A&M, Arkansas State. All right, 2-0 start. Ole Miss, probably a loss at Memphis. Don't really know about that one. I wouldn't just hand that one to you. And then you got Notre Dame at home. It's not really just an easy, nice start.
I retract my previous statement. That is not a smooth entry into what is a hot seat season for Sammy the Pit Boss.
I think 7-5 would be incredible. You got Ole Miss, Memphis, Notre Dame, Tennessee, A&M, LSU, Texas, Mizzou. You can muster up 7-5 with that. I also think if Taylon Green turns in his best year yet, that'd be really good. He had 3,100 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. If you can get somewhere in the 20 touchdown range and maybe only like 12 interceptions, really maximize Taylon Green's talents. Also, I think he had just over 500 rushing yards, so you really need that out of Taylon Green.
And keep his hospital ball playing self on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, a tall, slender cat, really, really good athlete, but doesn't seem to care much about his own body.
Or his wide receiver.
Yeah, nor his teammates. Not a lot of eyes in front for Taylon Green.
Nah, or just he's going to catch it.
Yeah, that guy's got that. Let's move the sticks. We got ice.
No, but I mean, there is an alternative where the season goes so horrible, so bad that you move on from Sam Pittman quick enough that you're one of the first seats open at the table in the hiring process. Now, obviously, if a sexier job comes along, it doesn't matter that you were there first, but the fact that you get to start your coaching search earlier would be more successful if you are one of these fans, one of these people that are out on Sam Pittman even before 2025 gets here.
I mean, they were putting up billboards at the last home game this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity for this to go sideways and him not even finish out the season, because if you lose to Ole Miss, Memphis, Notre Dame, then you got a bye week, then you play at Tennessee. If you lose those games all consecutively and you're 2-4 and you get like demolished by those 4 teams, I mean, that's a tough road schedule.
I mean, Tennessee's going to want to kick your teeth in after what you did last year. So
if I were some of these coaches on hot seats, I think right now I would be finding any 3-star that wants to commit to Arkansas. I'd be rushing 18, 20 commits before the season starts. And then we're like, by nature, we're an SEC program. Okay, so 24/7 is going to boost us into the top 20. All right, so then immediately we have a top 20 recruiting class. You can't fire the coach. He's actually got recruiting momentum. So I'm playing chess.
That is a chess move.
I'm playing chess out here.
Big brain move.
Yeah, I would be... Bro, come down here to Metro Atlanta, and you're going to I promise you right now, you're going to find another Cameron Ball. You know what I mean? That's one of their best defensive tackles the last couple of years. That's a Southwest DeKalb kid that had nothing really going for him. A Great Atlanta Metro, like inside 285, downtown Atlanta school. Come get you like 7 or 8 of those down here. Go grab you a couple out of North Carolina. Boom, bang, boom.
Hey, son, go do this interview with 24/7 for us real quick.
Yeah. Matter of fact, blow them up. Go do interviews with all of them. Have them all writing articles
Just
about
say
you.
yes.
And then guess what? Boom, 4-star. Crazy. What? Hey, now, you know what? No new tape. Don't need it. He got SEC O's, baby.
That is true.
You know what I mean? See?
The offers speak for themselves.
I'm out here playing chess. I'm good on it. Let's go to the local hour. I got presser notes.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grab some tape.
Dude that came in the chat earlier, that first note was like, this better be great. Second comment was like, already starting slow. Third comment was like, I'm out of here, boys, in like the first 7 minutes.
I think he asked us to tighten up.
Yeah, tighten up. Man was having a tough day.
I'm sorry we couldn't deliver.
I hope it gets better for you.
He's probably
Come back for the local hour.
He's probably giving us a hard time.
You think so?
You were in there beating the shit out of the printer before.
It was a slick shot at you guys. We got to listen to these guys open. Come on.
Ah, damn. Brooks is here again.
Damn. Might have more of that coming. I got a spring tour coming up that's about to be bonkers. Got my list today. Remember last year broke out the big map with the Sharpie? Can't wait to do it again this year. All right, I got presser notes for you. Kirby Smart had a press conference today. Would you say it was testy, boys?
Testier than usual.
All right, see, here's my deal about this. I just feel like he's always in that mood. When he's in there with us, he always don't want to be there. The first thing he said, I don't know if you caught it on camera, first thing he said was, "Where's everybody at? Ain't nobody in here. Ain't nobody in here today. Where's everybody at? Something important going on?" And then somebody said, "Yeah, baseball game just ended. They beat him 21-0." And he goes, "Pfft." And then under his breath, he said, "Haves and have-nots." Because they were playing Queen today. I didn't know Queen had a baseball team. Decent music.
The
Not a
music
fan.
I think they've won 3 games this year. They've also had to go play Tennessee as well.
Couple Grammys, though, right?
Yeah.
Was asked about the scrimmage. Oh, boy, here come the coach speak. We got a long way to go. That was the consensus. I think cooler temperatures prevailed so people could push through. I think it was a faster game. I personally like it more when it's hot. And it's a mental part, whether or not I can push through this. Classic. I just want it as miserable as humanly possible. I want them to suck so I can yell at them for sucking. That's good coaching right there. I like it more when it's hot and it's a mental part, whether or not I can push through. I know you're asking about who specifically did well, but that's not important right now. It's about whether or not we can actually execute a play properly. We got new people in new positions more than ever before. You almost have to start like no one knows anything. You almost have to start over from the ground up, which is something we've talked about a good bit this spring. They're kind of base blocking this thing, starting from ground zero, if you will. This used to be the first fall camp scrimmage. Speaking about the first scrimmage in the spring, really being our first scrimmage for what's our roster going to look like when we go into fall camp, right? Or when we end fall camp, rather, right? You get 2 spring scrimmages and then G-Day, and then you get 4 or 5 scrimmage weekends during fall camp. Count those as 7 or 8, and let's see how we progress, right? Let's attack those as if they are individual scrimmages leading up to our limited scrimmages, rather, leading up to our first football game. But nowadays, you can't really do that, is what he was saying, because these guys are so new to the program. Was asked about Zachariah Branch and the Branch brothers as a whole. So they both love football, and that's the number one quality of Georgia you got to have. Said they're still adjusting to practice, specifically the volume of practice. Georgia probably 2 spots more than any football program in the country, meaning basically they have 2 practices going on. So it's not like normal practices where if I'm a 1 and we're 1 spotting, meaning I'm a starter and we're only running 1 huddle, rather, I might get 4 reps if we take 30 during the period. But if we're 2 spotting, I might take 16 reps during a 30-rep period. Do we all follow that? Yeah. So it's different at Georgia. The volume's a lot higher because they have more bodies, at least right now. Everybody's about to have the same number of bodies. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So they're both learning. Physically, they're both developed, but the mental part is something that they're working to figure out that curve, right? You come to Georgia, it's a lot more, at least in regards to practice. We're in practice 10, and I've seen it with every guy. Talking about Zachariah specifically, said he's got extreme quickness, and he's an explosive playmaker. He was followed up then again about Zachariah Branch. He said he's very capable of leading. Both of those kids, talking about the Branch brothers, are very vocal in their skull sessions, not afraid to really talk. Said, but it's a very, I think the word was delicate, a very delicate thing when you come into a new team. You don't want to be like, hey, it's my team now. No, you got to earn that, was the exact wording. Got to earn that right to be a leader. What's up?
I just immediately thought of the Earl Sweatshirt meme where it's like, it smells like bitch in here.
You think the Branch Bros brought that energy? It smells like bitch in here.
I don't think so. Man.
Yeah, I don't think you bring that one from USC.
No, that's just where my...
Maybe the inverse. You think John Jarrett's out there at USC doing that?
Maybe.
This is how we did it. This is how we did it over there.
Soft ass California.
Where are we at? Stopping the run and running the ball. I guess when you were there, that was an emphasis that he had in his press conference going into the first scrimmage. We want to run the football and stop the run. I think we even put that in Patreon at the very beginning of camp.
Yes,
that was it's been kind of a theme for them this camp. By God, we're going to run the ball and we're going to stop the run. We're going to bang and clang basically during spring practice is what it sounds like. Said he's got spurts of each. Said they had a couple of explosive runs. Thought the energy level and passion on the defensive side was ahead of the offense. We kind of talked about that in our scrimmage notes yesterday. Defense kind of dominated. Ernest Green's out there with a what do you call those things?
A club.
A club.
Beehive.
Out there with a club on his hand. Can't remember if it's a finger or whatnot is what Kirby said. I think we reported on Patreon he was in a club. I mean, it's been a week or so now. So he's been practicing with it. Said he's been really frustrated, Ernest has, because he's not playing like he wants to. He can't grab, can't put his hands on anybody, at least with one of his hands. Kirby said he's been happy with the way he's been out there competing every single day. Was asked about Ryan Montgomery, and we got a new nickname, boys. Hezekiah Melander. Can you guess a nickname for Hezekiah?
Hezzy.
No. Good guess. You'll never get it.
Kai.
No.
Is it related to his name?
I don't know.
I don't know. Though.
I don't know.
Buddha.
Is he fat and
He
bald?
calls him Buddha. No. Very slender kid.
Oh, no.
Had a high school teammate named Buddha.
It's a quality addition.
Was he fat and bald?
That has to do with the nickname.
Oh,
But anyways, Ryan Montgomery not doing a lot, obviously. Just came off a knee surgery, out there throwing ball routes on air, basically, for the wide receivers during drills. So they got a live arm down there with the wide receivers. Maybe that's what the problem was last year. Maybe the athletic trainer or the GA that was tasked to throw the balls for James Coley was out here throwing bad balls. So they couldn't catch in practice, couldn't catch in games. Or maybe was not throwing a firm enough ball. They get in the game, ball's too firm.
Coach, he's bald.
Now we got Ryan Montgomery over there throwing beams. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Next level thinking. We're trying to elevate all the time around here. Put the guy who's on injured reserve down there throwing beams during Indy.
Coach, Carson throws it too hard.
We got these GAs out at practice, coach, throwing lollipops.
Coach, why
We need
can't
a
we put-
dude over there.
Coach, can we put the G?
Can we get Clint Ewers to come throw in the game?
Whoa.
Was asked about Jonel Aguero. Asked specifically if he cares if they brought in other players. Said doesn't think he cares about us bringing in other guys. He wants to win. If people come, you get to work harder, basically, is what he's saying. It's an opportunity to better. We had a lot of guys that transfer out of here, play football somewhere else, and they are done playing football. But the guys who stay here and develop are still playing football. I guarantee, I already know. They got data.
Sure.
They got data. You leave here, it works or it doesn't work. It probably doesn't work. Now, a lot of that I wonder is like, coach, I mean, he was a fourth stringer for you anyway, so he probably, you know what I mean?
Right.
He probably wasn't going to be playing football forever anyways. The only guy that I know right now that's still in the league that transferred out is Amir Speed.
A.D. Mitchell.
A.D. Mitchell.
Justin Fields.
Yeah. That's a quarterback. That's a whole different ball game.
I mean, yeah, but
A lot more.
Tyreek Stevenson still in the league?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Despite the celebration
Yeah.
at the end of the Hail Mary game.
That was a tough one, but
Burton in the league. I guess there's more than I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, Burton's out of the league. Burton got
Yeah,
cut.
that one you might as well chalk that up as it
ain't
didn't
gonna
work
last.
out.
Yeah, that's not going to be a long term. I don't think he's making a second contract.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Jermaine
Jermaine Johnson's still in the league.
Johnson's
yeah,
still in
yeah.
the league.
Chat's helping us out here.
I feel like there's a linebacker.
Well, Pop's about to be.
Pop's about to be.
Anywho.
Anyways, just fact checking the coach is what y'all just did. That's on y'all.
Well, there's we didn't even dive into the ones that let's lift off the ones that didn't work out.
I'll be sure when I get into the meeting room to go, actually, Kirby,
I'd like to correct you.
I'd like to correct
Coach, there's been 12 guys that have left here that are still on NFL contracts, just letting you know.
Coach, you're just wrong. I would get dragged out of that media room.
Who's the guy that looks like Urasek over here? Get his ass
Hell's
out
Ben
of here.
Urasek asking me these damn questions.
Who's little Benjamin over here? Get him up out of here.
Little Benjamin. Oh, man.
I hope that doesn't stick. Jaden Harris said he's got flashes, but flashes don't win games. Consistency does. We are looking for more consistency out of those positions. Talking about all the transfer safeties at that point. Bringing in Brothers doesn't think it's that unique. He recruited them as separate players, which, I mean, they kind of took visits together. I thought they were a package deal, but both of them are very good players.
Now,
it was unique for Georgia that they needed both players.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
see, correct me if I'm wrong. Was the J.R. Reed?
Oh yeah, that was D'Angelo Gibbs' cousin.
That was kind of like the package deal here.
Yeah, we want was it D'Angelo Gibbs?
I believe it
corner?
was. I believe
they
it
ended
was.
up transferring to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to have this guy bad, so we're going to take his cousin J.R. Reed. J.R. Reed ended up winning the Thorpe
It
Award.
worked out the other way.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works in the recruiting world sometimes.
What if it happens this time? What happens this time?
Oh, I don't think it's happening this time, but I do think Zion's going to be a good football player. I had one person tell me, a source tell me that he looks like a Georgia safety like if Kirby were to create a Georgia safety, that's what it looks like. He's that big, he's that rangy, he's that athletic, he's that instinctual. It's the other stuff that's, the consistency like Coach mentioned today. The answer to the 105, I asked you to translate this. Transcribe this. This was my question today. Now, when everybody else is asking questions, I type away. I ain't gonna lie to you. But when I ask a question, I preferred to give the subject matter eye contact, so I didn't get to transcribe this. But I thought he took it into the direction like he normally does, exactly where he wanted. I asked him about the 105, which we talked about last night. By the end of fall camp, you're going to have to report your 105 players to the NCAA. That is your hard, tight roster. I asked him about that. We took a total left turn into House versus NCAA settlement talk. So give me this actual quote word for word for the audience.
Trying to figure out where this exactly starts. He says, everything that's going to come out with April 7th, which might be April 7th, that might be the settlement date. We got a lot more information, but everyone is on pins and needles because we don't know exactly what's going to come out of this. What I do know is we're going to be able to continue to recruit people who love football, who are passionate about football, and that don't put money as the number one answer. Like, I have never met a really good player that's all they care about. So the 105 number, the NIL number, what's the cap number, what is this going to be? There's stuff going on right now, guys, in college football. I mean, there's people reaching out to have a Zoom call and present all the players they represent that are on teams, including our team, and they want to invite people so they can watch and see who's going into the portal or shopping people who are in the portal. You want to get in the Zoom and look at all these players? Well, some of them are mine. It could be one of the most legendary moments in all of college sports with what's coming up on this ruling.
Yeah, so the big headline there is the Zoom call with the agents. It's like, wait, what? We got you're out here, and what they're doing, apparently, what it sounds to me like they're doing is the agent has all of his clientele pool, and all these guys obviously aren't in the portal yet, but they might be flirting with the idea of it. So it's, hey, these guys might be biddable. If the bids get high enough, they'll actually go into the portal. That's dirty.
Yeah.
I think the most alarming thing for me was kind of what he ended on saying, and it's really unfortunate that I don't know if competitive balance is going to come out of it. I don't know if the kids win in this model, if the kids win long term. What's going on right now is not good for anybody.
Yeah, you mentioned like multiple year transfer guys looking back up at those guys in a couple of years and saying this isn't what we wanted out of this process. He mentioned it's different if you're a third or fourth stringer and you're year 3, year 4. It's time to go see greener pastures. And you've even seen in years past, at least from people that I talk to, I've seen them work to help some of those guys get out of there and go play, and almost encourage some of them to go elsewhere because you're not going to play here. I think you're a pro. I'm going to help you go to your next spot. But yeah, I'm going to transfer after year 1 when I don't play, or I'm going to transfer after year 2 when I don't play. It does open a door of a pattern of I'm going to quit. I'm just going to find a new spot. That's not ideal.
No,
it doesn't teach good habits not to do that thing.
Well, I mean, Kirby Smart mentioned basketball specifically of what's going on in basketball right now is crazy. Like, I believe after the first day of the transfer portal window being open, there was 1,250 players that entered the portal for college basketball. There was a player today that started at South Carolina, or started at Ohio State, went to South Carolina, went back to Ohio State, and now is back at South Carolina. That's what's going on, and that's what he's kind of getting at, is those types of things.
Was asked about the House settlement right after that. He said, you got 2 dates you're operating off of, the portal date and the House settlement dates. There are a lot of people doing manipulation right now. What he was talking about is it seems like some people are agents particularly, and now schools that are ramping up their budgets. They're trying to take advantage of this window where there's not a cap right now, because we don't know when the cap's going to be impacted or actually implemented. So if you have an industry where you have your employee base being represented by agents, and you tell those agents, hey, at some point, the water's going to be cut off, right? We're going to put a cap on what you're actually going to make. What do you think those agents are going to start doing? They're going to go start get as much money as humanly possible over whatever window we got available for them to be out here doing this crooked shit. So that's why they're out here ramping up the crooked shit, because they know eventually, supposedly, there's going to be a lawman come around. I just don't know how much actual enforcement the lawman's going to have, which is a whole nother discussion topic. I don't know how much power Deloitte's going to have. I really don't. I talked to some people that are like, we think it's going to settle all this stuff. I talked to other people that are like, they ain't going to have no power. They're going to get thrown into court so quickly. They're going to get their ass beat just like the NCAA did. How are you going to tell me how much money I can make?
Well, and I think Kirby brought up a good point, too, of saying, even with this cap, like 1 year, you're going to operate under this cap, and this player is going to be earning this amount of money. Well, the next year, you may not have the money to pay that player the same amount of money that you're paying last year because it's still the same cap, but you got new players coming in and you got different expenses.
You're an NBA guy. Do you remember when the NBA salary cap ballooned for the first time? Like crazy.
Oh, the first apron
and then all of a
that.
sudden you had like backup point guards making like $40 million. And within 3 years, people were like, that is the most atrocious contract in the history of professional sports. We're going into that window right here.
Yep.
We're about to have a budget that balloons in terms of being able to pay players now. The non-revenue sports are about to die, and that was the other concern that Kirby expressed today during this press conference. But it'll be interesting for sure.
Do you think that there will be a market correction even naturally, though?
He believes there will be.
Like, I mean, we are at
if it is, go ahead.
I was gonna say we're at a point now where 3 or 4 years ago, when this was really popping off, you would shell out millions and millions of dollars, and people are still doing that for the players that they think are the right one. But there's also somewhat of an apprehension of that because of a lot of these top 5-star guys that haven't worked out for you. Yeah,
there's donor fatigue. That's the word I hear everywhere I go. We got donors that are tired of paying bills for this roster, but there's also every time I hear that, I hear another guy saying, "Well, all they did now is just add 15 million to it through the rev share model." They're not going to stop calling boosters for money. They just got a bigger budget. They're just going to go out and spend it. They're going to keep asking people to do what they're doing on top of the rev share model now that it's got coming. So I just don't know where we're going, and nobody else does. I think that's kind of the scariest part about all this. Defensive line's improved.
Like that?
Ooh.
Defensive line's improved. There's a lot of young guys getting work. I've been really impressed with the buy-in. Said that guys around the program in that defensive line room have seen what Trey Scott does with guys year 3, year 4. You stick around, you learn, you get developed under Trey, and then year 3, year 4, you pop, and then all of a sudden you're making $100 million. You know, that's kind of what the progress or the progression chart has looked like at that position over the last several years and several draft classes. I loved this. Said relationship still matters for those guys in the recruitment process. Work ethic still matters. Do you want to be great? Do you have fire, passion, and energy? I'll pay for that. He said, I will pay for that. He doubled down. So if you have fire, passion, and energy, they're okay paying players. It's not, and he keeps reiterating, it's not that he doesn't care about players getting paid. It's the repercussions of the model and the path that we're going down, right? All the non-revenue sports, the separation of haves and have-nots further than we've ever seen it before, right? I believe that under this rev share model, if the Wake Forests of the world exist in 12 years, I'll be surprised. If we keep going down this path of if you're going to compete and you're going to win at a high level, you got to spend $60 million a year on your roster. You got to spend $30 million a year on your roster. Wake Forest ain't doing that, right? Georgia Tech's trying to do that now, right? Some of these programs that they're not the lifeblood of college football, but if we go from 132 teams and regions of the country that give a shit about the product to 32, that's hurting everybody's business, and you can't tell me it's good for the sport at all.
Agree.
So we'll see. Let's talk about running back recruiting, shall we?
I like this.
Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, review. And I'm assuming this is about the article I wrote today.
Yes.
On Bulldogs on SI. That is si.com/college/Georgia for all your premier writing. You know, we give it to you from a video standpoint, a writing standpoint, a film standpoint, a podcast standpoint. We're hitting all the bases. That's what we're trying to do around here. But I wrote an article today. You should check it out. Now, I'm going to do this a little differently on the show than I did in my article, as I always do. I got a favorite. I got a guy that if it were my budget, I would just pay this guy and then we'd figure out the rest. All right, but I'd try to sign 2 in this class, and here's how I would do it. I would go ahead and lock up Jay Lamar, the running back from Colquitt County. He's an in-state kid. You would imagine because of that, you might be able to get him at a lower price. All right. Jay Lamar, for those who don't know, is Colquitt County. His brother was recruited by Josh Crawford at Western Kentucky. There's been a family tie here for a while. Another reason why I think he might be a cheaper option in a world where salary caps matter, okay? But just to give you the rundown, 6 foot, 205 pounds, 4.3 in the 40. Verified 4.3 in the 40. This is a 10,600 meter guy. This is a dude, okay? And he's in your backyard, if you will. Cocoa County to me is Georgia. That should be Georgia. If not, it should be Florida State. Tallahassee's about 45 minutes from there. I don't know if Florida State's in the mix here. They are in the mix for another in-state running back, Carson Baker, who already took you off the OV list. So I think Carson Baker's out of the discussion. The running back out of Langston Hughes, another Blazer. Like, he's a really, really good back from Langston Hughes that I think is going to end up either at Ohio State, Clemson, or another program. I got it here in the notes, but nonetheless. So those are in-state targets. But if I'm throwing money at a back in this class, to me, it is Derek Cooper. Derek Cooper out of Chaminade down there. That is the school that Jeremiah Smith is from. First of all, plays really, really good high school football. Okay, they travel as well and play a national schedule pretty annually. So I love that about him. The transition for him is not going to be that high or that difficult, and he's supremely talented. He's the best athlete, pound for pound, in this class, in my opinion. I think he could be a 5-star safety. I think he could be a 5-star running back. Whatever you want him to play, whatever he wants to play, I'm going to let him play. Now, here's the problem. Okay, from my sourcing, this was a Georgia commit.
Yes.
Okay, and I think the kid wanted to go to Georgia and wanted to commit to Georgia, and then Mama woke up. There was a late night commitment. Mama woke up the next morning and was like, "You did what last night?" No, sir. No, you did not. And we didn't even get a Go Dogs tweet before he decommitted. Okay, that's how quickly this was. Wait a minute. No, you ain't off the board. From my sourcing, it was Mama Mama runs a show. All right. Mama's very, and that's not a bad thing. I don't mean to say it like that, and that's the other thing I want to add on to this. Sitting into these recruiting meetings on these visits, it is very important to understand who runs the show. They even talk about that with the kids. They'll bring the kid up and they'll say, Mom and Dad are involved in the decision. Dad is involved in the decision. Mom is running the show. We got to get to Mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very important in these recruiting battles because we're talking about 16, 17-year-old kids. So anyways, he's my favorite. I think he's an All-American back, plays big-time football, and premium tape. Now, the industry favorite is Savion Hyder. All right, everyone loves him, the kid out of Virginia. Seems to be the industry consensus number one back. For me, it's Derek Cooper, but I can't get a read on Hyder. I don't know who can get a read on Hyder. I don't know who leads for him going into these official visits, which are set up with Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, and Tennessee. So ain't none but big boys there. This is a heavy hitter recruitment. Now, the reason I don't know we only got sophomore tape right now, but these guys are evaluating real tape. All right, they've got access, no matter if you're cutting up high school tapes or not. As an athlete, I hate to tell you, but colleges can look at all of your games anyways. That's why they pay $20,000 a year for Huddle. So there ain't no secrets. Just secrets for us. I can't see it because I ain't paying $20,000 a year for Huddle. You? You?
Bro. No.
Not to watch all 22 of a high school full game. But if I were a coach deciding whether or not I'm going to give a running back $750,000, I don't know if this is what it is, but probably what it is. I'd be digging through all 22.
I'm sure my school would also pay for that if I was worried.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think the company's about to pay for that here.
So if it were me, I would lock up Jay Lamar now. We wouldn't even bother. We would go ahead because I think the Derek Cooper sweepstakes with Miami could get really, really tricky. And the Savion Hyder thing is already tricky. And in the terms of we don't know what the temperature gauge on that is.
Is the running back market in recruiting still inflated because they have a shorter lifespan in the NFL? I know Kirby Smart talked about this a few years ago, maybe, of how the running back recruitment is probably more the expensive or some of the most inflated markets simply because of that right now.
Well, Kirby listens to the show because we've been talking about that for a while. And it makes sense. Your lifespan's shorter, so your money up front better be heavier. We see what's going on with the college or with the NFL market at the running back position. I think the college running back is far more valuable than the NFL back. I think we just saw that with Ashton Genty, honestly. If you have a premier running back in college, you have a better chance to win than you do in the league. You need a lot of other things in the league to be successful at a high rate. If you've got a Heisman caliber running back, you're going to win 9 games, I think. That's what the history of college football tells us, too. This ain't an NIL thing. This is, Monty Ball won 8 games every year at Wisconsin. You see what I'm saying? If you got a guy that can tote it like that, you're going to win football games in college. It's not going to be like that in pro ball.
Well, in college, you're allowed to be okay at other spots and have a great running back and have a lot of success. But like we've seen in the NFL where Derrick Henry was on the Tennessee Titans for multiple years. And they didn't really amount to anything, but then, he goes into another organization.
But I give his ass 44 totes in an SEC championship game and we going to beat Baylor's ass in the playoff or Michigan State's ass in the playoff.
Exactly.
So I think that kind of it makes sense. Not only is the lifespan shorter, agents are pushing the money up further and earlier into these contracts and lives of these athletes, but more valuable in the college ranks than in pro ball, in my opinion. Gotcha. But yeah, you are correct. To answer your question, I do think the running back market is still inflated. So there's that, but worth paying. Should we do?
Let's do a spin.
That's what I was going to say. Should we get into this wheel of topics? Let's do it. Let's go to the board. I need to get up and move my legs around anyways. Yeah, I need to sport these here bird dogs. I mean, look at that. Above the knee. We love that. We love to see the little thighs on the big fella. All right, here we go. We'll spin it. Click to spin. It's a nice photo of Kirby back there looking nice and pissed off at practice. Whistle in hand by Kirby, by the way. Not a lanyard whistle guy. Whistle in hand. What do we got? Who has to pop? Easy answer, Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, that's
Gunnar Stockton got a pop, and we'll talk about him tonight in terms of what it's going to look like in terms of reality and what I think a projection of a good Gunnar Stockton game looks like.
I was going to go whoever starts opposite of KJ Bolden at safety.
I like that.
I think that's a spot that there's going to be a lot of questions. I think that's a spot where it can create a lot of vulnerabilities on your defense if it's not someone who's really, really solid. You just went from having Dan Jackson, Malachi Starks back there to now a guy who's going to be making his 15th, 14th, 13th collegiate start.
Kirby said it today. They calculated almost 2,000 snaps out of that safety room that are gone.
Wow.
They played about 1,000 snaps last year defensively. You just assume that Dan and Malachi were in on all of them. Let's tell you, boom, 2,000 snaps up out of the room. That's really, really quickly. So, yeah, one of those safeties has got to pop. How about a guy like Chris Cole as a pass rusher? Yeah. I think Quintavious Johnson it's good that we've heard what we've heard out of spring ball. It sounds like he's going to be what we think he's going to be, but they need him to be that. I mean, they need Quintavious Johnson to be a winnable jack in year 2 of his college career, having been a hybrid. I played defensive end, and I'm our high school quarterback at Mays High School just 18 months ago.
Yeah, I would have said the edge or defensive end room in general. Just somebody out of that room needs a big season to pop immediately for that room to have life.
If you needed a pop out of the running back room or the wide receiver room, which would you take more?
If I need Zachariah Branch to go for 1,100 yards, far more than I need a back to go for 1,000.
But my thought is
that's me.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you get Chauncey Bowens the pop or something like that, you now have a really, really good 1-2 punch. If Nate Frazier didn't pop last year, you were in the shitter a lot of Trevor Etienne, because there was an extended period of time where Trevor Etienne missed it. So I would almost argue you need a running back to pop this year. There's going to be solid wide receiver play. There's too much talent in that room for there not to be at least a few players.
Let's give it a couple more spins. I like this. Let's see what we got going on. What does a successful season look like? Is that what I got coming up here? What does a successful Gunnar Stockton season
We can
look
maybe
like?
do a different spin because we're going to get into that, I guess.
We can transition this into our
I like this next segment we got coming up. Let's come back to the wheel. This is a good transition here. So here's what provoked this next segment. Okay, I'm hanging out in our Discord like I do every single day. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin if you want the link to that Discord. It's got thousands and thousands of Georgia fans that hang out in there on the daily. A lot of lurkers, though, if I'm going to be honest. But anyways, somebody was up in there and was like, hey, man, I feel like I've heard more Bo Walker hype this offseason than it reminds me of Todd Gurley's freshman year. And I couldn't slam the brakes harder. I'm about to pull off the side of the road. I was like, no, we got to address this right now. We're going to pump the brakes on that. So what we've got going on today is what I'm calling set the expectations, and here's how this segment is going to work. We'll continue with the Gunnar Stockton segment or topic. Gunnar Stockton is going to be Tim Tebow, right? Crazy expectation. Here is the reality, in my opinion. Gunnar Stockton is going to average 265 yards passing per game, 35 yards rushing per game, and 3 total touchdowns per game. He's going to account for 300 yards of total offense, 3 touchdowns, not going to turn it over a ton. That is Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, I kind of just set the bar at I feel like he can be a 68% completion percentage type guy, throw for around 3,200 passing yards in a season, and then have 21 passing touchdowns.
And look, people are going to be like, "Oh man, that's not very good. That's not video game numbers from a quarterback." If Gunnar Stockton adds into the run game like I think, at least holds people responsible on the backside. We watch more tape around here than anybody else on the internet, and I got sick and tired of watching defensive ends just get to play free the last 2 years. All right, they just got to run around and never respect the quarterback out of the backfield, or never respect boot reverse, or never respect hardly anything out of the back. So they just got to run. All right, and that means if the front side's not just dominating, we're getting tackled and people diving on the back of our legs as a running back at 3 yards. All right, so I got tired of watching it, and I know they did as an offensive staff, because there was nothing that they could do about it. They could try to slip tight ends, they could try to split zone as much as they could, but if you're not holding defensive ends responsible nowadays in college football, your run game is going to be hurt. And we saw it immediately when Gunnar Stockton walked in. You could see it on tape, and you could see it in the box score if you're a box score person. All right, there were 2 long runs last year from Trevor Etienne. Game 1 in Clemson, a little busted play on a truck toss. All right,
Texas,
and then
Texas. No, Tennessee Tech he didn't play in game 1.
You're right. No, I thought he played second half. Either way, There was an explosive. Nate had an explosive run on a busted truck toss. All right, and then the other one was Trevor against Texas, because guess what? Anthony Hill and the backside defensive end are doing this as Trevor's running down the sideline. So holding those backside ends accountable is, I think, going to do a tremendous value in the run game this year.
I agree.
And I also don't think that the Tim Tebow comparisons are like outlandish. Obviously, Tim Tebow won a Heisman. Obviously, Tim Tebow has 2 rings. He's arguably the greatest college quarterback of all time. But statistically speaking, he had a shit ton of rushing touchdowns, and the rusher, I think, might be high expectations for him. But I don't think Tim Tebow lit the world on fire with his arm. I don't think it's irresponsible to say, Gunnar Stockton, like we said, can have 3,100 passing yards and maybe, go for 25 touchdowns. That's basically what Tim Tebow did as a thrower. Now, obviously, you're combining in the numerous rushing touchdowns he had and how he was basically a guaranteed touchdown anytime he got in the red zone. But I think the thrower, Tim Tebow, isn't necessarily too much of an expectation for him.
Unrealistic expectation. Bo Walker is going to have a Todd Gurley freshman season. Reality. Bo Walker is going to have a mixture between Dejon Deathmarch and Nate Frazier flash.
I like that.
Like 50-50, both of them. You're going to see moments where he looks like he is what we've talked about, or what everyone's talking about this spring. Oh my God, he's going to be great. Better than Nate Frazier already. I heard somebody say that the other day. I'm like, come on, man. Like, we already got to do that. But anyways, I think he's going to have a little bit of both.
I think the realistic ceiling for Bo Walker would be second half 2022 Branson Robinson, where you're up 30 points.
Dejon Deathmarch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Branson Robinson had more flash when they were doing that, I think.
I don't know, man.
I think the thing is, like,
Dejon take a -2 to a +6 better than anybody I've seen.
The thing about a Dejon death march is you knew you were going to complete the death march because no one was going to stop Dejon from getting 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, first down.
Yep.
Whereas Branson is like the more flashy, like, he gonna run somebody over, but we don't know exactly how this drive might end.
And by the way, from a run style standpoint, that's why people are so impressed with Bo so far, is he's taking -2s and making them +6s. And there's no way to make that boring. You know what I mean? When that happens on a football play, everybody knows that the back made the play. And he's doing a lot of that, as did Dejon early on in his career and throughout his career. I think this guy's got far more juice, though. That's why I think it's going to be some of that flash that Nate presented. Unrealistic expectation. KJ Bolden is going to be Malachi Starks reincarnated.
No.
The reality. Perhaps as impactful on the field, he won't make the flash plays. Malachi Starks' ball skills and the ability to find it and come down with it, I don't know how many people are on that level. Now, Malachi didn't have tremendous play strength early on in his career. KJ, far smaller of an athlete, actually showed up with the helmet quite often last year and played like a thumper at 180 pounds, 185 pounds maybe. He's closer to 200 pounds now. He's put some weight on this offseason. I just don't think you're ever going to see KJ Bolden running with the number 3 wide receiver on a slot fade, turn around, pick it off.
No.
I don't know if you're going to see that. But he's going to run that alley far better than Malachi did.
I said a fair expectation for him was 75 total tackles this year, forces around 3 or 4 turnovers, but his presence isn't going to be felt on the stat sheet. And to be fair, Malachi Starks really wasn't either. Like, Malachi Starks, as far as things considered, never had like oh my God, he's got 7 interceptions this year. He didn't have a Dominic Sanders-esque year, even though he was much more the safety of him.
Yeah, and the whole entire passing situation last year, he was in the slot covering.
Correct.
So he's turning and running, and they're leaving him in man-to-man coverage the entire time. So, and when you cover as well as he does in the slot, you're not going to get targeted. You're not going to have tackles. You're not going to have the production stats that some of those other guys do.
And that's why I think KJ Bolden's not going to be felt on the stat sheet.
I ain't going to be felt. We're going to feel him.
Right. But
maybe not on the stat sheet.
Correct.
But 75 tackles is a shitload.
That is. That's what I thought initially.
That's going to lead the team in tackles.
That's about what Malachi had in 2024. Okay. And KJ had about 59 last year.
Yeah. Got a nose for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
A real nose for the ball. As a tackler, for sure. He's got to find it a little bit more in the air. But looked real calm in coverage last year.
Very much.
So why do you think, because KJ played both ways in high school, and he was a pretty solid wide receiver. Why do you think it is, like, when you get on the defensive side of the football, why it maybe is? I know you're moving around a little bit differently than you do offensively, but tracking the football.
As a receiver, I'm eyes on ball, or I'm running until I'm eyes on ball. As a defensive back, I'm eyes on player. I'm covering until ball is arriving, and I have to have an innate sense when the ball is arriving, and then I got to turn my head around late and find it. That's a total different skill set.
Yeah.
The second, I'm not saying he's not the athlete that Malachi Starks is. Do not get me wrong, but that is a very unique one-of-one athlete, right? The only two guys that I think of in defensive backs at Georgia are Kamari Lassiter and Malachi Starks.
Yes.
Think about the type of football players we're talking about and the plays that they made with the ball in their air. That doesn't mean that KJ is not going to be comparable to him or have as much of an impact. I just don't think he's going to make those, holy hell, look at this. I don't know if he's going to make one of those plays on the ball.
Yeah.
He might. Chris Cole is the next Quay Walker. Reality. Maybe better.
I mean, if Chris Cole's
Maybe
next
better.
Yeah, but if Chris Cole's the next Quay Walker, we got to wait another year or so before he becomes Quay Walker.
I'm talking about finished product year.
Okay.
That's why I think he has an opportunity to be better.
But I do think
Quay didn't figure it out until year 4.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I do think we owe it to the fans to be like, hey, if he's going to do this, it's not going to be in year 2 or 3. It's going to be take a little longer. Now,
that's why I think maybe better. I think he can do it earlier.
All right.
I mean, he's going
to have the opportunity to do so this year.
He earned the opportunity in a big moment as a true freshman last year, which meant he was also ready to do that, and he looked well. Like, it didn't look like we had to throw him out there. We have to put Chris Cole out there because we don't have any other options. It was like, we get to put Chris Cole out here because we know he can do this. Like, he never looked phased or anything like that.
If a genie came to me one day and said, Brooks, I'll give you anything that you want in the world of football content. I can make anything for you. I'll just pull up the documentary right now and I'll make it. I'll say, all right, genie, I want to be in every single meeting room that Glenn Schumann and Quay Walker were in junior year into senior year. I got to figure out what the hell he implemented into that guy's brain. Because you watch freshman, sophomore, junior tape, to Kirby's point, of Quay Walker, and you're like, man, I sure hope this guy figures it out one day. And then you watch the senior tape, and it's like, game 1, figured it out.
I can remember
ball.
I can remember sophomore Quay Walker tape film sessions and how those went compared to what it was his final year.
I'll tell you how it went.
I know what you're about to say.
I'll tell you how it went. Blocked on Twitter. That's how it went. That's how those went. CJ Allen is finally going to have his Roquan Smith season. What is the reality?
I think CJ Allen has his best season. I think trying to put anything up to the Roquan Smith season.
Is he closer to Nakobe? That's what my notes say. He's closer to Nakobe than he is Roquan.
Yes.
And that's
I would
okay.
agree with that.
I mean, Jesus. You know what I mean?
More than okay.
Oh, the other Buck.
The other Buckus Award winner. You know what I mean? But I think we've coming into high school and watching year 1, watching the spring game, we're like, that's a first round linebacker. That's what it looks like. But now we're like,
solid SEC starter.
Solid SEC linebacker.
Yeah.
Well, he's also flashed too. Like I keep going back to that Florida game where it's
Texas
like, game. Games like that where it's like, holy shit, CJ Allen. I think his problem was he never fully put together. He got really picked on in the Alabama game. He got picked on in certain points of the year. I think he needs to get a little better in zone coverage before you can say, like, oh, this is Roquan Smith. Also, Roquan Smith was just physically a specimen on that field. Like, the speed he had in the game, which is why I think Nakobe Dean is a better comp for him, because I do think also CJ Allen is going to elevate himself into a leadership role this year. We talked about it last night of how he might have necessarily been kind of pumping the brakes on stepping forward and being the leader as a sophomore. He felt a little wrong doing that. it's going to be partially his defense now. I think he's going to really, really succeed in that position.
All right, I am itching like nobody's business to get to these mid-spring practice updates, but I got to spin that wheel one more time.
Spin the wheel one more time.
I got to.
And he's spinning the wheel.
What, is this a game show now?
I don't
Maybe
hate
not.
it, honestly.
We can't play games around here.
It's a game show?
It's business.
This is serious.
No fun.
This is serious ball talk. Right?
Zero fun, sir.
Come on now. Come
What's
on now.
Georgia?
Oh, look, man, that's right on the third line right there,
No,
man. I
that's
don't know
what's
where it's
Georgia.
going to go.
What's Georgia?
What's Georgia's biggest strength? Roster talent. Isn't that their biggest advantage? Isn't that what the whole machine's built off of?
Yeah.
Player acquisition, talent acquisition. We think we have better like strategies on getting great players, not just highly rated players, but great players that we've scouted and developed. That's their whole thing. Mm-hmm. Everything he leads with is player acquisition. We got to get better players. We got to make sure we got great players. And staff continuity.
Yeah.
That would be another
That's a good
advantage.
one. Yeah.
Staff continuity. I don't think anybody in the world of college football knows what their roster is going to, or their coaching staff is going to look like 18 months out more safely than the University of Georgia.
Yep.
It's a good one.
Good.
I'm trying to think of another answer you could say for that. Maybe that this team has more of an edge or something to prove this year than others. Like the amount of guys on that roster that have played in national championship games is so small that they have something to prove of their own. But again, that pales in comparison to being more talented than the other team.
And also like a subjective hope. Like we're hoping that happens. We don't know that to be firm.
Correct.
Although I do think they're on that path. I think they're on a path to be far more connected as a football team than they were last year. That's what I think of when I hear like all the we just didn't live up to our standard. We just didn't do. Y'all aren't a football team. Y'all not a connected unit that is required to win at a very, very high rate. So I think that's a thing that they've been, really harping on, I would imagine, this spring, right? It's part of that back to the basics things. We got to get back to being a cohesive unit that works together. Mid-spring practice updates, okay? Now, here's how this segment's going to work. We obviously had a bunch of questions going into spring practice, and we're here to update what the answers are about these questions after 10 practices and a spring scrimmage. So question number one was who was going to play on the interior of the offensive line? I think we heard really good things about Daniel Calhoun before the injury. Michael Unai stepping in, as we reported yesterday, into that role with that quote-unquote first unit at right guard. I think it's good news that year two players are the answer there, right? They seem to be ready to at least elevate into that first unit. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Juan Gaston, if they need it to be done. Juan Gaston's might be one of the best 5 offensive linemen that they have come August.
Yeah.
And if a spot at guard is open, I wouldn't be nervous about asking Juan, saying, "Hey, want to play guard for a year, or do you want to sit for a year?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Coach, I'm gonna play guard. Let's get the reps. Who gives a shit? Also, by the way, you still need me to lose 20 pounds. You won't need me to lose 20 pounds if I'm playing guard this year. You know what I'm saying? So I do think if he's one of the best 5, and this is something I actually had a conversation with somebody about, if he's one of the best 5, don't be afraid to play him. Don't be afraid to play him at all. So that's where they're at with guard. Any other thoughts? Or at least the interior offensive line.
I don't want to sound negative on that, but that sounds like one of the more positive projections you've heard from the interior offensive line in a while.
Absolutely. Bobo hyperextended his knee Saturday.
Yeah.
But you know that mouth-breathing dude's going to be back on the practice field as soon as possible.
I think that's what Kirby says. Like, we expect to get him back soon. I was like, soon? Really?
Yeah, buddy. Mouth breather.
That's great. That's crazy.
It's bound to happen when you're running 40 yards downfield.
Chasing the ball. Got to see a burst. Got to see a burst on tape. You know what a burst looks like, Jonathan? A change in pad level. If I see you running upright and all of a sudden you get after it, that pad level drops, a burst. I got to see some burst. Follow the ball, chase it. Drew Bobo be doing that. Would the transfer receivers be good? That was a question, right? Sounds like they're raving all about him. Can't talk enough about Noah Thomas. Can't talk enough about Zachariah Branch. Heard great things about C.J. Wiley. Heard great things about Taylor Taylor. Just can't stop talking about this wide receiver core.
Do we still put
Colby Young back out there leading the rep.
I was going to say.
Just out here leading everybody through the walkthroughs and everything.
I noticed that you're talking in a sort of...
Because
facetious way.
He's about to say what I'm about to say.
But it's year 6. It's year 6. I covered the University of Georgia where we talking about this.
Mm-hmm. Especially
they look
now.
better than they did last year. Not this way, but last year, going into the year, they got Colby Young and Ra Thomas.
Robert Thomas, NFL guy.
And we're out here. I got sources telling me we got NFL people talking about Dylan Bell like he's the next Debo Samuel. That's what the vibe was last year.
Last year, I remember we sat here on the show and said, this is the most talented wide receiver room
every year
Kirby Smart has ever had.
Every year.
Dylan Bell said it today.
We said it.
Every year.
Dylan Bell said it's the best wide receiver in the country.
So
we're going to be the show me show on the wide receiver
with this
group.
position, yes.
With this position group at the University of Georgia, we are officially into show me status.
What does it look like, though? What does it look like if we go at the end of 2025 and like, damn, they were wider about the wide receiver room? Does there have to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver?
To me, it's more about like situational explosivity, right? Like when you need big plays, can you find them? Mm-hmm. Do you have explosive plays? Are you an explosive offense? Can guys get open? Can they beat man-to-man coverage? When you get into the red zone, do we have a guy that can actually get loose? Like that to me is far, because I'm the film guy. Like it's going to look like you got dudes on tape or it's not. I don't care what the box score looks like, because guess what? Baylor's putting up 700 yards passing every single week, but I don't know of a first-round draft pick out of Baylor that I'm out here scouting.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not to me the box score. To me, it is what are you doing to defenses? Do defenses feel like they have to play too high against 3-by-1 situations? Is Noah Thomas a guy that requires bracket coverage? Is the safety rolled over the top of him? Because the last several years, he's been able to camp his ass at the top of the box to stop the run. Mm-hmm. That to me is far more important than do you have a 1,000-yard receiver? Which I'm praying we get to write the damn article and actually pub it. And if they have one, then we have the answer to all these questions. But I don't think offensively you're going to throw for 4,300 yards next year.
No.
I don't think you're going to throw for 3,900 yards next year.
No.
I think you're going to throw for 3,200 yards, 3,400 yards. Mm-hmm. And you're going to rush for another Georgia standard season, and rushing the football is far more important to me than did we throw for 4,000 yards.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Would Gunnar Stockton and D be the guy? We have our answer. We had our answer at Pro Day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Gunnar Stockton's the guy. What would happen at safety was a question we had going into the spring. I don't think we have an answer to it.
I think we have hints at this point.
Yeah.
I think we've heard a lot of good things about Zion. I think we've heard a couple of things about Corey Thomas. I think Jonel Aguero has kind of made it known that he's probably going to be taking the majority of reps at the star position. Mm-hmm. I think we have some hints of, okay, it would surprise me if it went this way, but I agree with you. We don't have a definitive answer for anything.
I think the best thing you found out about safety is that, when you take 3 stabs at safety in a transfer portal class, that kind of indicates we have no idea. We're just going to try and take a couple of chances here and hope one of them hits. More importantly, what you've learned is that Ja'Cory Thomas feels like a guy that is likely going to end up being the starter by the end of the year, but that also Zion Branch is definitely a guy that is playable at the University of Georgia, and maybe Harris and Maddox are on track to getting there if they can be more consistent. So you have a better idea of the trajectory of the position.
It seems to me that Ja'Cory will probably be the first team safety come August, and then he's going to have it ripped from him by somebody, which right now all signs point to Zion.
That's how it usually goes.
And then Adrian Maddox, and then Jaden Harris. It's kind of the pecking order I've been told.
Do they rotate like they do at safety?
Yeah.
Because
that's the other thing about.
Well, that was the thing. I know that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Mm-mm. I know start of the year it was Julian Humphrey at the opposite Dalen Everett, and then it was kind of we'll sprinkle Daniel Harris in there. We'll put him in Kentucky. We'll put him in here.
Yeah.
And obviously, he ended up winning that job, but we saw Daniel Harris throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Well, the point I was going to make is that I was even sitting in position meetings in, like, for example, a linebacker room. And in between the meetings, coach pulls back one of the sliding grease boards, the whiteboards, and boom, there's their entire depth chart. And I don't know this roster from Adam, but it's got grades. And, whether or not a guy's a walk-on. If he's a walk-on, he's in gray. If he's young, if he's a freshman, he's in red. If he's a veteran, he's in gold. And I'm looking at this roster, and I'm trying for the life of me to figure out what's their depth chart. Who's actually the starting unit? And then you go out to practice, and they're rotating everybody in the entire time during spring ball because they're evaluating their roster. I used to think it was coach speak, right? Where Kirby Smart comes up, then there is no depth chart during the spring. We're just trying to get everybody reps. We're trying to develop our roster. He's not bullshitting. Not from what I have seen. Everywhere I go, there isn't no, hey, ones are up. It's, hey, today's ones are up. We're going to today's twos next, and you're with today's twos type of vibe. And we even saw that with the offensive line, quote unquote, depth chart that we saw get leaked, right? And then we come to find out the first scrimmage that they actually have, Jaw Jackson's getting an extended look at left tackle. This is what I'm talking about. These depth charts are in such flow and fluctuating right now by design, because you don't want kids to think they are where they're not. You know what I mean? I don't want a kid going through spring practice thinking I got no chance to play here.
Or I'm the starter.
I don't want either one of those. So the depth charts are very much so in flux. Do we have nostalgic tape tonight?
Oh, do we ever have
you boys
nostalgia
were
tape?
On it, huh? Mm-hmm. You guys were on it. All right, let's go take a look. Am I allowed to look?
This is one you recommended.
Oh, okay. Oh man, I love this tape. This was a my guy coming out of high school. All right, now I am biased because hell, most of those photos right there in my high school little memorabilia thing are against Eagles Landing Christian Academy. This is Justin Robinson. Now, Justin Robinson didn't work out worth a hill of beans at either location, either of the three stops.
No.
Didn't really work out at Georgia, didn't really work out at Mississippi State, didn't really work out at West Virginia. Can't for the life of me figure out why, because this tape right here was phenomenal coming out of high school. I loved watching this. This was more even like the profile was insane. This kid just started playing football like as a sophomore. They saw him walking the halls. He was a basketball player, and coach is like, hey, nah, you're a football player. This play right here, look at his high point. Look at him get off of the ground, pirouette, come back down on his feet. How many kids you see fall down like that? You know what I mean?
Bro,
to land back on your feet. He floated back onto his feet.
He had a parachute on.
And now we're going to get a slot fade right here, I believe. Oh, yeah. We're going to get a corner ball, and we're going to high point that one, too.
See the basketball skills, a little box out.
We're going to murder a child on kickoff here in a second, too, if my memory serves me correctly. I mean, look at the body control. Look at the body control in this kid. What? He's sick. By the way, 6'4", 220. Built like an Adonis.
Did you ever get inside sources as to why it didn't work out?
One hand, stickies, give me those. No. For the life of me, can't figure it out. I mean, look at that dude. Now, granted, he playing single A high school football. I'm well aware.
But, I mean, the plays are the plays.
I mean, I clinched a state title chance on that field that he's out here doing work on. I'm very aware of this high school. This is Athens Christian right here.
Subtle flex.
Or excuse me, Athens Academy right here. One hand again. Big time playoff game. Out here doing up little Timmy and Tyler. Couldn't for the life of me figure out what happened. Oh, Q making a play. Look at the Q. Shucking off rushers. High point galore.
Is it a
high point galore.
Thing?
Now we're going to get me playing safety.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, now we're going to get me playing safety murdering children. What in the world?
Wow.
Why?
He did 2 edits of it, and the second angle is more zoomed in.
Why didn't this work?
I'm going to guess it was a separation thing.
Yeah.
Because for as great as all these high points are, typically when you're having to dunk on someone's head,
we got.
It means you're not getting separation.
Speaking of dunking, this is Landmark Christian right here. We out here getting did up. Damn. See, back in my day, we was beating Eagles Landing Christian Academy. I can't speak for these kids, but back in my day, how about Sequoia? They're better now than they were when you were there, right?
What are you talking about, bro? I took our team to Elite 8.
Hell yeah, you did. Hell yeah, you did.
No, they were also on. No, I didn't take them. They were also on the Elite 8 roster.
Back was hurting.
Guess we know why you didn't make it a state championship.
Hell no, I was not the.
I mean, we even got Yak. Look at this. We even got Yak. I got to wait around the kickoff because the kickoff is what sold me on him. I'm like, I could just picture Kirby Smart salivating. This is Our Lady of Mercy right here. He fitting the crib this one. Yeah, I can see the long speed being a problem.
Top end doesn't look great. Separate. I mean, like.
Maybe you should have stuck being a power forward, being a 2 guard.
I mean, let's be honest. That route right there is getting eaten up in an SEC.
You're correct.
And that's no offense to whoever number 13 is, but that's not very good corner play. Was this prevent 3D?
Says they had him at a 4.5 40 yard on his
Oh.
Yeah, I was all about it, man.
I mean, I get it. The tape is great.
All about it.
But also hindsight, knowing that why it didn't work.
We got to have a lot more. I mean, good God.
Like what is the bro? Bro.
Yeah, he was fun.
Oh, was that a
block.
I'm faking the jail screen?
Yeah, that was a little smoke.
Interesting.
A little smoke. A little fake smoke. Man, I love me some Justin Robinson. What y'all looking at me for?
Hey, man. Just making sure you didn't have anything else to say.
We got midday work tomorrow. Unless we want material study. Studies ain't doing it though.
Have the people earned the material study?
No. No. They haven't. It's in the chamber. It's gonna sit there too.
We also have more wheel topics.
Oh, we got more wheels?
We can do that.
I think I'm good. Let's call it a day. Appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love you. We will see you tomorrow with something. I got something coming for you tomorrow. Ain't no doubt.
Say less.
What is that?
I mean, we're gonna make some content tomorrow.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure you.
While you're slacking off doing whatever you do during the middle of the day.
Working.
Going to class.
Yeah, working.
Going to class to get a master's degree.
Ooh, he's fancy with his master's degree.
Hey, you've plugged your master's degree too.
Just several times. The one that I don't use that sits on the desk.
So it's over there on the floor. See?
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll be a good economics teacher with my master's degree.
People need it.
I've yet to meet a good economics teacher, dude. Econ always was tough for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it's debits and credits.
The macro and the micro thing always throws me
Yeah,
off.
that one does throw a rink in the
having to
whole
do
thing.
math for like adjustment cost. And all.
Yeah, but I would imagine nowadays they just go to a website and type it in and it just spits it
Well,
out.
that's what it was, but that in the class it was like, you can't do that here. You have to do it by hand. Is the old fashioned like remember being
your work?
Remember being in an elementary school and like the teacher being like, you're not gonna have a calculator everywhere you go. You need to learn how to do this.
Well, that was cap.
I mean, this is pre-iPhone.
Were you when you did your math tables? Were you when you get done?
Dude,
did you let everybody know you were done?
I flipped that.
Was I?
Yeah, was I ever?
Flipped the hell out of that paper to let them know you were superior.
Hell yeah, I was always first pin down.
Oh yeah.
Except for Andy Abernathy, that damn nerd.
You remember the name?
Yeah, I mean he's worth millions now. I mean, no shit.
And it all
I'm still
started
buddies
there.
with him. Yeah.
What does he do?
He's a financial guy. He works for not a mortgage lender, but like somebody who handles your finances. And he's brilliant. Worked on Wall Street for a little while. Went to Georgia.
Go Dogs.
Applied himself.
Hey, that's all you gotta do.
What a fucking nerd.
He tried.
What a loser. Making hundreds of thousands of dollars at a click of a freaking computer. I'm out here slaving. Love you. Bye.